Look, let me tell you how I ended up with the hottest wife in this entire backwards world. Half a year ago, lightning struck me dead on earth. Well, not just me, some criminals too, but that's cold comfort when you're getting barbecued by the sky. One second I'm a freshly graduated chemistry student dreaming about making money and finding a wife. Next second I wake up in what feels like ancient China, except it's definitely not any China from the history books. This world is stuck in the sword and sandal era. Countries fighting everywhere, people starving, the whole deal. But here's the beautiful part. The government literally hands out wives for free. Free. They round up refugee women and let unmarried guys just pick one. Back on Earth, I couldn't even get a second-hand girlfriend, and now the government is basically running a matchmaking service with zero entry fee. I nearly cried with joy. Nearly. Because the first 100 women they brought me looked like they crawled straight out of a monster encyclopedia. Big arms, thick necks, faces that could scare a horse into retirement. The village chief, old man Tian Guang, this dark-faced little bureaucrat, kept dragging them to me like a desperate used car salesman. Pick one. Pick one already. Nope. Nope. Absolutely not. My standards aren't even that high. But come on, a man's got to have some dignity. Then today happened. Tian Guang shows up again with his latest batch, and I'm lying under the willow tree chewing on a piece of grass. Zero expectations, just waiting for him to go away. But then, my eyes locked onto someone in that crowd, and my heart basically exploded. Even covered in dirt with messy hair and rags for clothes, this woman was absolutely devastating. Porcelain skin, perfect curves, an icy expression that could freeze boiling water. She stood among those other women like a swan in a flock of very muscular pigeons. Tears. Actual tears rolled down my face. 6 months of suffering, and the universe finally delivered. Tian Guang, bless his clueless soul, completely missed the point. He grabbed some woman built like a refrigerator and said, "Look at this one. Strong back, thick waist. She'll plow your field in no time." All the village guys were drooling over refrigerator lady. More muscle means more farm work. That's their logic. These people marry for horsepower, not romance. Not me, though. I jumped to my feet, pointed straight at the gorgeous Ice Queen, and announced for everyone to hear. "Chief, that one. She's got the goods. Chest, waist, hips, perfection. I choose her." The beauty's eyes flashed with murder. Pure, undiluted murder. If looks could kill, I'd have died 800 times on the spot. But honestly, that just made her hotter. Every farmer around me burst out laughing. That skinny thing? What's she gonna do? Sit around looking pretty? Give me the thick one. Look at that waist, wider than a barrel. That's wife material, peasants. No taste whatsoever. The woman, she gave her name as Nangong Xiener, actually tried to refuse me. Told the chief to make me pick someone else. The audacity. I'm the catch here. Luckily, Tian Guang shut that down fast. Men pick, women follow. That's the rule. If you refuse, you get shipped to the county brothel. She went quiet real fast after that. Whatever her deal was, the brothel option clearly terrified her more than me. Which, fair, I'm not that bad. Walking her home, I laid out my vision with full confidence. "Miss Nangong, I know this is sudden, but give it time, and you'll fall hopelessly in love with me. Also, just so you know, when more women inevitably throw themselves at me in the future, you'll still be the main wife. I guarantee a life of luxury." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Didn't say a single word. Just cold, disgusted silence. Beautiful. Then we arrived at my house. 3 crumbling straw huts, a sad little vegetable patch, and walls so bare you could see through them. Her expression somehow got even colder, which I didn't think was physically possible. Here's the thing, though. I'm a transmigrator with a chemistry degree. These villagers think I'm broke, but I've got tricks nobody in this world has ever seen. Dinner time rolled around, and my new wife was starving. She tried to hide it, but her stomach was practically filing a formal complaint. When I walked out of the kitchen carrying a plate of snow-white meat giving off the most incredible aroma she'd ever smelled, her Ice Queen mask cracked just a little. Then I brought out the real showstopper, a bowl of ice water. Actual ice. In the middle of summer. June heat, and I've got ice cubes clinking in a bowl like it's nothing. The meat surprised her. The ice broke her brain entirely. She couldn't help herself. That cold, regal voice cracked with genuine shock. "Qin Chuan. Where did this ice come from? And right then, standing in my garbage dump of a house with my impossibly beautiful wife staring at me like I'd just performed a miracle, I knew this transmigration thing was finally starting to pay off. My ice water trick absolutely destroyed her composure. When she asked where the ice came from, I just smiled and said, "Made it myself, obviously." The look on her face, priceless. Her brain was short-circuiting trying to figure it out. See, nobody in this country knows you can make ice with saltpeter. The Qian Empire sits in the warm south. They don't even get frost in winter. Their empress has never tasted ice in summer, and she's supposedly the richest person alive. Meanwhile, here's me, a broke transmigrator in a straw hut, casually serving frozen beverages like I'm running a five-star restaurant. Now, about that meat, it's crab. Just regular old crab from the ocean. But 60 years ago, some genius government officials scared everyone away from the sea by inventing a story about the Dragon King cursing anyone who touches his seafood. The whole country bought it. People are literally starving to death across the land. And there's a buffet sitting right there on the coastline that nobody will touch. Incredible stupidity, but fantastic business opportunity for yours truly. I didn't tell Nangong Xin'er any of this though. If she found out it was sea creature meat, she'd probably refuse to eat it because of that dumb superstition, and my gorgeous new wife would go hungry. Can't have that. She took one bite, and her eyes went wide. That cold, regal mass cracked right open. The meat is tender, bouncy, sweet. Nothing like anything she's ever tasted. Did she admit it was amazing? Of course not. It's average, she said, with all the enthusiasm of a funeral director. Then she inhaled the entire plate like a vacuum cleaner and chugged the ice water in one breath. Average, sure, sweetheart. She even asked what kind of meat it was. I just grinned and said, secret. She called me pretentious and dropped the subject. Women, they hate mystery until they love it. When nighttime came, I could practically feel her tensing up. Wedding night, right? She probably expected me to try something. And look, I'm not gonna lie, the thought crossed my mind approximately 4,000 times. This woman is devastatingly beautiful, especially after she washed her face. Absolute goddess territory. But here's my philosophy. She's already mine. The paperwork is done. Why rush? I want to give her a proper wedding first, make it official and romantic, then get to the good stuff. Call me old-fashioned. Call me an idiot. Either works. I gave her my bedroom and went to sleep in the woodshed like a gentleman. She probably stayed up all night, clutching a knife waiting for me to bust through the door. Sorry to disappoint, babe. Morning came, and my wife woke up looking confused. Turns out she slept like a rock. No mosquito bites, nothing. In this southern summer heat, mosquitoes are basically a plague. Even the imperial palace needs dedicated servants waving fans all night to keep them away. But my little straw hut? 0 bugs. She couldn't figure out why. Chemistry degree, baby. I made mosquito repellent. But she doesn't need to know that yet. Let her marinate in the mystery. Then things got complicated. Her bodyguards never showed up. Whatever trouble she was running from. And yeah, I could tell something was off about this refugee, woman with imperial-grade skin. She was stuck here with me now. Honestly, best news I've heard all week. Worst news came stomping through my gate about 5 minutes later. This fat pig named Kai, local rich guy, fancy clothes, face like a greasy dumpling, waddles into my yard with his goons and starts yelling. Hu Jinchuan, you bought this house and land on credit 2 months ago. 20 days left to pay. 5 silver taels with interest, or you and your new wife become my permanent servants. Nangong Xin'er's face went through about 17 shades of disbelief. She thought this dump actually belonged to me. Nope, bought it on layaway, and the payments are due. Here's the thing Fat Kai doesn't understand. I've been preparing for exactly this moment. Half a year of groundwork, and my money-making plan is ready to harvest. I strolled out of the woodshed, yawned, stretched, and casually told him, 10 days. I'll pay in 10. And per our original deal, early payment means I only owe 4 taels, right? Fat Kai nearly popped a blood vessel laughing. He was thrilled. Shorter deadline meant higher chance I'd fail, which meant free servants. Deal, he bellowed, then waddled off cackling with his entourage. My wife looked at me like I'd just volunteered to jump off a cliff. Are you insane? She exploded. How could you make such a promise? You can't possibly earn 4 silver taels in 10 days. Ordinary people in this war-torn economy can't earn 4 taels in an entire year. She had every logical reason to think I was delusional. Forget 10 days, I said, brushing my teeth with the pig-hair toothbrush I'd made. I can earn 4 taels today. Her eye twitched. Then she hit me with an ultimatum. If you can't earn 4 taels today, write me a divorce letter and let me leave. Bold move. But two can play that game. Sure, I said, rubbing my chin with maximum dramatic energy. But if I do earn 4 taels, you have to kiss me on the face and call me husband from now on. The fury in her eyes could have powered a small city. Her entire body radiated, I will end you, energy. But then, I could practically see the gears turning. She realized there was absolutely, positively, mathematically no way a broke villager could earn 4 taels in one day. Fine, she said ice cold. If you earn it, I'll do it. Oh, my sweet, naive, beautiful wife. You have no idea what you just agreed to. This chemistry major is about to blow your mind and your wallet expectations. Time to go make some money. Before heading out, I grabbed my secret weapon from the kitchen, a big clay jar full of dark, sticky, kind of smelly goop. My beautiful wife took one look at it, wrinkled her nose, and basically started mentally drafting my divorce papers right there. Good luck with that, she said, in a tone that clearly meant, you absolute clown. She told me to hurry up, probably already planning her escape route for after I inevitably fail. I reminded her about our bed, kiss plus calling me husband, and got a door slammed in my face. Classic wife behavior. She'll come around. I did shout through the door that I left breakfast for her in the kitchen, because I'm a thoughtful man. No response. The silent treatment from a woman who technically can't leave? Bold strategy on her part. 2 hours of hiking through mountain roads with a heavy jar on a shoulder pole later, I finally reached Donglin County. The place was depressing, low walls, empty streets, skinny people shuffling around looking half dead. Where does that? But here's what poor people don't understand. Misery is never evenly distributed. The rich folks? Still eating like kings, still partying, still spending stupid amounts of money on luxury garbage. And I had the ultimate luxury garbage. My destination? The Yihong House, the biggest, fanciest brothel in the entire county. Yeah, I sell artisanal condiments to a brothel. Don't judge my hustle. The back door guy let me through, and out came Madame Wong, the house manager. Mid-40s, still gorgeous in a dangerous Annie kind of way. Swaying hips, bedroom eyes, perfume cloud following her like a weather system. She practically pounced on me. Oh, Master Cheen, I've been waiting for you. Did you bring the goods? 2 weeks ago, I'd given her a free sample of my product. She added it to the brothel's kitchen, and the rich clients went absolutely nuts over the food. Ordered more immediately. 10 silver taels for 1 jar. 10 taels. Most families around here don't see that much money in a year. I popped the lid. She saw the dark, sticky mess inside, and her face lit up like it was Christmas morning. I'll take all of it. She whipped out a pink silk purse and tossed it to me. 10 taels of silver, just like that. Now, what's in the magical jar? Oyster sauce. Plain old oyster sauce. See, this country has virtually zero seasoning technology. No soy sauce, no vinegar, nothing. They've got salt, some wasabi-type stuff, and basic oil. That's IT. Even those cost a fortune. Meanwhile, thanks to that idiotic Dragon King legend, nobody goes near the ocean, which means there are approximately 9 billion oysters sitting on the coastline with nobody touching them. I just waltzed down to the beach, scooped up as many as I could carry, and boiled them down into concentrated oyster sauce. In a world with no condiments, oyster sauce is basically liquid gold. I'm selling ocean flavor to people who are terrified of the ocean. The profit margins are insane. Madame Wong asked what this miracle substance was called. Oyster sauce, I said, cool as a cucumber. Never heard of it. I want another jar. Can you deliver in 2 weeks? 3 days? Her eyebrows shot up. I've got an empire to build, woman. Wives don't feed themselves, and I'm planning on collecting several. 2-week delivery schedules are for amateurs. Then, just as I was about to leave, Madame Wong pulled me aside. She glanced around nervously and showed me a wanted poster. My blood froze. It was her. My wife. Same face, same devastating beauty, drawn in perfect detail on a wanted notice. 500 taels reward. 500 taels. For context, the most dangerous bandits in this county have bounties of like 10 or 20 taels. My wife is worth 500. What in the actual hell did I marry? I always knew she wasn't some ordinary refugee. No peasant woman has skin like that or carries herself like she owns the world. But 500 taels of, please find this person money? That's royalty-level trouble. Madame Wang leaned in conspiratorially. Some very powerful people want this woman. And rumor has it, a ranked assassin is coming for her. Shangwan Xiong, number 19 on the national killer rankings. The killer rankings. This world has an actual leaderboard for assassins. Top 100 are all basically superhuman fighters. And number 19 is heading this way, hunting for my wife. Never seen her, I said without blinking. No idea who that is. 500 taels is a mountain of money. But selling out the most beautiful woman I've ever met for cash? Please. I didn't survive a lightning strike and transmigrate to another dimension just to be a snitch. After leaving the brothel, I reached into my shirt and pulled out my insurance policy. A handgun. Remember those criminals who got struck by lightning with me? They all transmigrated too, straight off a cliff. Dead on arrival, every single one. But their guns survived the fall just fine. Finders keepers. Everyone in this world thinks swords and martial arts are the peak of combat technology. They have no concept of what a bullet traveling at several hundred meters per second can do to a human body. Assassin number 19. Killer rankings? Cute. Absolutely adorable. Come find my wife. I dare you. I double dare you. I tucked the gun back in and started the long walk home, grinning like an idiot. Partly because I had 10 silver taels burning a hole in my pocket. Partly because a professional killer was about to learn a very expensive lesson about messing with a transmigrator's woman. But mostly I was thinking about the look on Nangong Xinner's face when she sees this silver. And about that kiss she owes me. A bet's a bet, sweetheart. 10 taels of silver in my pocket, and I'm feeling like a king. But a good husband doesn't just bring home money. He brings home groceries and presents. I hit the market and loaded up. Rice, roast chicken, pork. Because honestly, even I'm getting tired of secret seafood every single meal. Then I swung by the fabric shop and picked out 4 sets of clothes for my wife. Nothing fancy, but the woman showed up wearing literal rags, so anything's an upgrade. Between the food and clothes, I burned through 2 taels. That still leaves me 8 taels of pure profit to wave in her gorgeous, doubting face. The walk home took forever. By the time I reached the village, sunset was painting the sky orange and pink. Every house had smoke rising from their kitchens, and my beautiful wife was probably pacing holes in the floor waiting for me. Called it. Nailed it. The second I walked through the gate and announced myself, she burst out of the room like a racehorse leaving the starting line. But she wasn't running toward me with open arms and tears of joy. Oh no. She didn't even glance at the bags of food I'd hauled for 2 hours up a mountain. Qin Chuan, I've been waiting all day. Write the divorce letter now? This woman was so absolutely, unshakably convinced I'd failed that she'd probably already rehearsed a goodbye speech. She was practically vibrating with excitement to dump me. What's the rush? Don't you want to give your future husband a welcome home kiss first? I pulled out 8 silver taels and dangled them right in front of her face, just jingling them back and forth like I was hypnotizing a cat. Her expression went through 5 stages of grief in about 2 seconds. Confusion, squinting, realization, shock, and finally, pure, beautiful panic. She actually grabbed the silver from my hand to check the weight. Her delicate little fingers tested each piece, and I could see the exact moment her brain accepted reality. It was real silver. Not just 4 taels either, 8. Double the bet. Know what her first reaction was? Did she congratulate me? Apologize for doubting me? Swoon into my arms. She accused me of robbery. If you stole this money, I advise you to repent and return it immediately, or karma will punish you. I just stood there, blinking. This woman literally could not conceive of a universe where I earned money through legitimate means. In her mind, the most logical explanation for me having silver was violent crime. That's how low her opinion of me was. Below the floor. Underground. Approaching the Earth's core. I'm not a criminal, I said, trying not to cry. I sold the stuff in the jar. The black gooey stuff? Remember? Light bulb moment. She remembered the disgusting-looking paste she'd dismissed that morning. I scooped some oyster sauce onto a chopstick and offered her a taste. She looked at me like I was trying to poison her, so I tasted it first, then loaded up a fresh chopstick for her. One tiny lick. That's all it took. Her eyes went huge. That oyster sauce hit her taste buds like a flavor bomb from heaven. I could literally see the math happening behind those beautiful eyes. Rare, delicious condiment. Nothing like it exists in this world. Rich people would pay a fortune. If this were sold in the capital, she murmured, almost to herself, it would fetch not just 8 taels, but 100. And just like that, for the first time since we met, Nangong Wan looked at me with something other than disgust. She even apologized. Qin Chuan, I'm sorry. I misjudged you. Her voice was still cold enough to freeze water, but the words were real. My ice queen was starting to thaw. People. Just a tiny crack, but I saw it. Then she dropped a bombshell. My real name isn't Nangong Xiener. It's Nangong Wan. I'm from the capital. My father is a wealthy man with many enemies, and I was attacked while traveling. I need to borrow 100 taels to hire an underground messenger service called Baixiaoxing to send a letter home so my father can send people to rescue me. Now pieces were clicking together. The 500 tael bounty. The inhuman beauty. The aristocratic attitude. Daddy's a rich big shot with enemies, and his princess daughter got caught in the crossfire. Made perfect sense. Without even hesitating, I said, done. I'll earn 100 taels and give it to you. Her jaw actually dropped a little. Really? Of course. And once you contact your father, I can come visit my future in-laws. Pure genius move on my part. Help the wife, meet the parents, lock down the relationship. This is chess, not checkers. Now, what she doesn't know is that I have additional motivations for reaching the capital. I've heard that Qianan City, the imperial capital, is basically the promised land. Located in a gorgeous river region, packed with the most beautiful women in the entire empire. The legendary #1 beauty, Su Yunyan. The famous genius poetess Lin Shishir. A whole city full of stunning women who meet my extremely high standards. One wife is nice, but a man needs ambitions. The capital is where I build my harem, my loving family. My wife seemed genuinely touched by my willingness to help. She even smiled. An actual, real smile that cracked through her icy exterior like sunrise through storm clouds. When the time comes, you can meet my parents. Little does she know, her parents includes the entire imperial government. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now came the moment I'd been waiting for all day. So, I said, rubbing my hands together with maximum creepiness. About our bet. I earned the money. Way more than 4 taels, actually. Which means you owe me 1 kiss. And from now on, you call me husband. Those were the terms, Miss Nangong. The color drained from her face. In all the excitement about the money and the letter and meeting Daddy, she'd completely forgotten about the bet. I leaned in, pointed at my cheek, closed my eyes, puckered up. Come on, your husband is ready. Lay it on me. My face was out there, eyes closed, lips ready, waiting for the kiss of a lifetime. Come on, baby. Lay it on me. Nangong Wan stumbled backward like I was radioactive. Her ice queen face cracked, and, wait, was that panic? The most dangerous woman I've ever met. Hunted by assassins, worth 500 taels dead or alive, and she's terrified of kissing me? She kept backing up, clearly having some kind of internal war. Honor versus disgust. Promise versus pride. Her brain was basically 2 lawyers screaming at each other in a courtroom. Too slow, sweetheart. Hesitation is just permission with extra steps. I closed the gap in 3 strides, grabbed my moment, leaned down, and planted one right on those cherry-red lips. Contact. Her eyes went dinner plate wide. Her eyelashes trembled. Pretty sure she stopped breathing entirely. For about 2 glorious seconds, the most beautiful woman in this world had her lips pressed against mine, and the universe felt absolutely perfect. Then I felt the murder energy radiating off her body like heat from a furnace. I pulled back with my most satisfied grin. Wifey's lips are truly unforgettable. But don't worry, I said 1 kiss, and I'm a man of my word. Just the one. Then I casually strolled into the kitchen like nothing happened. Behind me, I could feel her reaching for her knife. The killing intent was so thick you could spread it on toast. She followed me into the kitchen, short blade probably inches from my spine, fully prepared to turn me into a kebab. I spun around with a plate. Wifey, I bought you roast chicken. Put some oyster sauce on it. Incredible flavor combination, trust me. Then I pulled out the clothes I'd bought her. Also grabbed you 4 outfits. The county shop didn't have much variety, but I tried my best. Something shifted. I watched the murder drain right out of her eyes, replaced by confusion, warmth. She looked at the roast chicken. She looked at the clothes. She looked at me, this stupid grinning idiot who'd just stolen a kiss and then immediately offered her dinner and a wardrobe. The knife went back to her belt. Survival, confirmed. Charm offensive, working. Don't call me wifey, she snapped, snatching the chicken and clothes from my hands. But per our agreement, you call me husband. So naturally I call you wifey. Fair's fair. Nobody loses, she wanted to argue. I could see it building up. But the logic was airtight, and she knew it. A kiss had already happened. The word, husband, was already part of the deal. At this point, fighting it was like trying to unring a bell. Fine, she declared, clutching the roast chicken like a weapon. But I'm warning you. We are not truly married until my father sends people for me. We go to the capital and have a proper wedding with all the ceremonies. Until then, this is words only. You touch nothing else. Understood. Then she started demolishing that chicken like it owed her money. Absolutely, wifey. Whatever you say, wifey, husband, she said it. She said it. Didn't even look at me, voice flat as a board, clearly treating it like swallowing medicine. But the word came out of her mouth, and it was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. That night, she changed into the clothes I'd bought. Through the wall, I heard her mutter, "This village idiot actually has decent taste, victory." But then, and I know this because the walls of my house are basically paper, I could hear her tossing and turning all night. Couldn't sleep. Kept making frustrated little sounds. At one point she actually hissed, "Chin Chuan, you are so annoying." Meanwhile, I slept like a baby in my woodshed. Dreamed about arriving in the capital with wives on both arms. Living in a mansion, surrounded by beautiful women fighting over who gets to pour my tea. Outstanding dream. 5 stars. Morning came, and I had work to do. The 100-tail goal wasn't going to reach itself. My oyster sauce pipeline was solid, but the bottleneck was production speed. The beach was 15 or 16 miles away, and hauling oysters back solo was killing my efficiency. I needed employees. Problem: every villager in this superstitious backwater believed the ocean was cursed by the Dragon King. Offer them money to go near the beach? They'd rather eat dirt. Literally, I've seen them eat dirt. I sat on my stone bench thinking, and then it hit me. The perfect recruits. The village rejects. The local legends of uselessness. Time to call in the dragon and phoenix, I muttered to myself. My wife came outside looking absolutely stunning despite zero sleep. She spotted my carrying pole and realized I was heading out to work. For her money, technically. Something softened in her expression. The anger she'd been building up just fizzled. "Can I come with you?" she asked. "Wifey, a man's job is to earn the bread. A woman's job is to look beautiful. And you're doing an excellent job at yours. Stay home. I'll handle this." She froze. I think that might have been the gentlest thing anyone's ever said to her. Her eyes went a little unfocused, like she was processing an emotion she'd never encountered before. By the time she looked up, I was already gone. Romance is all about the dramatic exit. 15 minutes later, I found my targets under a willow tree on the hillside. The dragon and the phoenix. The village idiots. The dynamic duo of disappointment. Tian Tianzi, the dragon, was a skinny failed scholar who'd bombed every single exam he'd ever taken, but still insisted he was a reincarnated literary god destined for greatness. Despite being dirt poor and refusing to do any physical labor, he wore a tattered scholar's robe everywhere to maintain his status. Currently, he was lecturing about Confucian philosophy to nobody who cared. Neodali, the phoenix, was his audience. A gentle giant, easily 7 feet tall, built like a siege engine, strong enough to bench press a horse. Unfortunately, the good Lord forgot to install the brain software. He sat there clapping and giggling while Tian Tianzi promised him a general's position in his future government. Hee big official. General. Yay. Neodali clapped his enormous hands together. These two were rejected by every single person in the village. Nobody would work with them, talk to them, or acknowledge their existence, which made them absolutely perfect for my purposes. Tian Tianzi was desperate enough to follow anyone with a convincing enough pitch. Neodali would follow anyone who gave him snacks and spoke nicely to him. And that monster body could crack open oysters like popcorn. I sauntered up with my biggest, most confident smile. Well, if it isn't the great future Minister Tian and General Niu. What an honor! Tian Tianxi nearly jumped out of his skin. He'd heard about Fat Kai coming to collect my debt yesterday and immediately assumed I was here to borrow money. He grabbed Niu Dali and tried to bolt. I blocked their path, cranked my charisma to maximum, and started painting the biggest, juiciest, most irresistible pie these two had ever seen. I hear you gentlemen want to become powerful officials? Well, this humble gentleman happens to have an opportunity that could make that dream come true. Interested? Recruiting the dragon and phoenix went exactly as planned, which is to say, it was a complete circus. Niu Dali, my gentle giant, immediately got excited about becoming a big general and was ready to sign up for literally anything. His brain operates on two settings, confused and happy. Both are useful. Tian Tianxi, the failed scholar, was harder. This scrawny, noodle-armed intellectual actually thought I was there to steal Niu Dali's 1 acre of farmland. Bold accusation coming from a guy who was clearly already scheming to take it himself. When I got close, he tried to drag Niu Dali away like a mother hen protecting her dumbest chick. Time for the shock and awe approach. I whipped out 8 tails of silver and let it catch the sunlight. Tian Tianxi's eyeballs nearly fell out of his skull. This guy had never seen more than 1 or 2 tails in his entire life. 8 tails to him was like waving a winning lottery ticket in front of a homeless man. Where did you get that? He choked. A divine immortal gave it to me, I said, with the straightest face in human history. Why would an immortal choose you? Probably because I'm incredibly handsome. This beanpole with greasy hair and a face like a malnourished monkey actually scoffed at me and said, "In terms of looks, I beat you easily." Then he smoothed his oily hair like he was posing for a portrait. The audacity, the delusion. I almost respected it. Fine. Words wouldn't convince this clown. Time for the big gun. Literally. I pulled out the pistol and fired straight into the sky. Bang. The sound ripped through the mountains, echoed off every cliff and valley, and basically shook the heavens. Birds exploded out of every tree in a 5-mile radius. Tian Tianxi's legs buckled like wet noodles. Niu Dali's jaw dropped so hard it nearly hit the ground. Both of them looked at me like I'd just summoned thunder from my hand. The immortal's divine weapon is here. Kneel. I commanded, holding the gun above my head like a holy artifact. The immortal. I'm kneeling. I'm kneeling. Tian Tianxi face-planted into the dirt so fast he left a dent. Me too. Niu Dali plopped down beside him. Now that's what I call effective management. I launched into my recruitment pitch, full cult leader mode. I am the immortal's chosen representative on Earth. He has tasked me with finding worthy servants. Complete his mission, and you'll receive divine blessings, wealth, power, government positions. The heavens are literally raining fortune upon you. Will you accept? Tian Tianxi was shaking with excitement. His whole life he'd believed he was special, and now here was proof. I accept. I serve the immortal. Me too, said Niu Dali, right on cue. Excellent. Your first sacred mission is, dramatic pause, that going to the beach to collect oysters. Tian Tianxi's face went from ecstatic to horrified in 0.3 seconds. The beach? That's the Dragon King's territory. He'll kill us. Relax. Just watch from a distance. I'll show you that the Dragon King is nothing but a cowardly turtle in front of the immortal's power. We hiked to the coast. Tian Tianxi was trembling so hard his bones were rattling. Niu Dali, bless his empty skull, wasn't scared at all. In his mind, we worked for an immortal now. So what's one little Dragon King? I marched to the water's edge and screamed at the ocean. I, Qin Chuan, representative of the immortal, command the Dragon King to retreat. Defy me and face divine punishment. The ocean did absolutely nothing. Because it's an ocean, there is no Dragon King. Tian Tianxi watched from behind a rock for about 30 minutes. When no sea monsters appeared, no curses descended, and the waves just kept peacefully lapping at the shore, something clicked in his brain. The Dragon King was gone. The immortal's power was real. From that moment on, this lazy bookworm who'd never lifted a finger in his life worked harder than I'd ever seen a human being work. Greed is the world's greatest motivator. 3 guys working the oyster beds absolutely crushed it compared to my solo operation. Niu Dali alone was worth 5 men. He cracked open oysters like popcorn with those monster hands. By sunset, we'd filled 6 massive buckets with oyster meat. Enough for 4 jars of oyster sauce. 40 tales of potential revenue. That's 7 times what I could have done alone in a full week. The business was officially scaling. I paid the boys with rice and pork, luxury items they hadn't tasted in ages. They bowed, thanked brother and sister-in-law, and ran off drooling over their dinner. Back home, my wife was waiting. She'd been pacing the yard, checking the gate repeatedly, clearly worried about me. Did she admit it? Of course not. Were you thinking about your husband? I asked, popping my head through the gate with a grin. I was not thinking about you. I was just walking around. For exercise, your mouth and your heart seem to disagree, wifey. Believe whatever you want. She spotted my 2 new employees and asked who they were. I introduced them with full dramatic flair. These are the Dragon and the Phoenix, my elite generals. Future legends of the Qian Empire. She looked at the skinny greaseball and the giant simpleton, both wearing rags and grinning like idiots, and her expression basically said, "We're all going to die." Then she surprised me. She rolled up her sleeves and said she'd help me make the oyster sauce. An empress? Well, a rich man's daughter as far as I know. Volunteering for kitchen work? Maybe my charm was working better than I thought. Husband and wife, working together, sharp enough to cut through metal, I declared. She gave me a strange look, probably surprised a village idiot knew that classical saying. But she let it go and started helping. We were just getting the oyster meat into the pot when a voice boomed from outside. "Hey, Qin Chuan, you home?" My wife recognized it instantly. That's the fat landlord. Kai. Wait, it wasn't even the payment deadline yet. What did this greasy dumpling want at this hour? I walked outside. Fat Kai stood at my gate with 15 armed thugs, grinning like a cat who'd cornered a mouse. "Qin Chuan," he said sweetly, "hand over your woman." My blood temperature dropped about 40 degrees. He changed the contract, I realized immediately. This pig had rewritten our agreement. The original deal was about money and servitude. Now suddenly it said if I didn't pay today, my wife was collateral. The fat scumbag had heard about Nan Gongwan's beauty, sent spies to confirm it this afternoon, and decided he wanted her for himself. Classic rich bully move, forge documents, show up with muscle, take what you want. And if I refuse? I asked. My hand was already on the gun in my pocket. Here's the thing about ancient worlds with no surveillance cameras, no police forensics, no DNA evidence, and a war raging across the countryside. People disappear all the time. Nobody asks questions. Nobody investigates. I'd been saving my bullets for that assassin, Shang Wanxiong. But Fat Kai and his 15 idiots just volunteered themselves as target practice. Come into my yard trying to take my woman? In this economy? Let me show you what happens when you bring swords to a gunfight. Fat Kai stood outside my gate in the dark, surrounded by 15 thugs, laughing like he'd already won. A refugee dares say no to me? Hand over your woman, or I'll break your legs, and take her anyway. My hand was on the gun behind my back. 15 targets. Dark night. No witnesses. Easy math. Guess I'll have to keep all of you here then, I said calmly. They laughed even harder. One of them actually said, and I quote, "Keep us here? What? So you can watch while the master sleeps with your wife? Oh, buddy, you have no idea how close you are to meeting your ancestors right now." But before I could paint my yard red, a furious voice erupted from the kitchen. "You'll regret those words." My wife stormed out carrying a wooden pole like she was about to start a one-woman war. And honestly, the aura coming off this woman was terrifying. She wasn't just angry. She was radiating some kind of primal authority that made the air feel heavy. Even I felt my spine tingle. Fat Kai, predictably, was too stupid and too horny to notice. His tiny pig eyes lit up, and he actually licked his lips. Feisty. I like that. Come quietly, and I'll spare your useless husband's legs. Now here's where my wife proved she's not just beautiful. She's absolutely diabolical. Her entire demeanor flipped like a switch. The killing aura vanished. She dropped the pole, covered her face with her sleeve, and giggled shyly. "Oh, Master Kai. Actually, I'd love to go with you." Fat Kai nearly had a heart attack from joy. "Wonderful. Come here, my little darling. But why won't you come inside to escort me? I'm starting to think you don't really like me." She batted her eyes, voice dripping honey. I stood there watching this Oscar-worthy performance with my jaw on the floor. My wife just weaponized flirting. This is the most terrifying woman alive. Fat Kai completely lost his mind. He waddled through the gate, arms open, tongue practically hanging out, charging at her like a lovesick hippopotamus. My little sweetheart, I'm coming. One step away from her. That's all the closer he got. The shy maiden act vanished like smoke. Her eyes went ice cold, and she launched a kick directly into Fat Kai's most precious equipment with enough force to pun a watermelon. Crunch. The sound that came out of that man's mouth wasn't human. It was somewhere between a dying pig and a broken accordion. His enormous body crashed to the ground, both hands clutching his destroyed manhood, screaming so loud dogs 3 villages over probably started howling. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm so in love. His thugs rushed forward, but my wife already had her short blade pressed against Fat Kai's neck. Her voice dropped to sub-zero temperatures. Anyone takes one more step, and I open his throat. And then it happened. This wave of pure dominance exploded out of her. Not just confidence. Not just anger. This was something else entirely. Something imperial. Every single thug froze mid-step. A couple of them actually looked like they wanted to kneel. These were rough mountain men who'd probably beaten up dozens of people, and they were paralyzed by a woman holding a kitchen knife. What exactly did I marry? Rich merchant's daughter? I was starting to have serious doubts about that cover story. She carved a nice red line across Fat Kai's neck, shallow but bloody, and his screaming reached a whole new octave. Still want to come after me? You know? Mercy. Please. I'll never come back. Make sure you don't. Consider this your warning. She stabbed him in the thigh for good measure. Fat Kai squealed like a pig being slaughtered at New Year's. His men dragged his blubbering carcass onto a sedan chair and ran into the night. My wife is incredible. The kick, the acting, the knife work, the raw intimidation. 10 out of 10. Would marry again. But, and I love her dearly, she made a rookie mistake. She let them live. Fat Kai has a brother-in-law who works as a constable at the county office. The same county office controlled by rebels who are actively hunting my wife for 500 taels. Once Fat Kai reports this, officials will come. They'll find her. And then we're both dead. I couldn't let that happen. Nice work, wifey. Beautiful hero saves the helpless husband. That's my woman. She wasn't in the mood for compliments. She'd already figured out the same problem I had. We need to move. Let's go to the coast. The Dragon King story is nonsense, just government propaganda. We can hide by the sea. Wait. She knows the Dragon King thing is fake? Nobody in this entire country knows that. Only someone at the very top of the power structure would know the sea superstition was deliberate government policy to keep civilians away from the coastline during the pirate wars. Who is this woman? I filed that revelation away for later investigation. Right now I had a more pressing problem. Running to the beach was pointless. No shelter, exposed to wind and waves, and enemies could still shoot arrows at us from the shore. Running doesn't fix anything. What fixes things is making sure Fat Kai never talks to anyone again. Great plan, wifey. Let me go tell the dragon and Phoenix first, so they can meet us there. Hurry. I'll pack the oyster sauce supplies. She rushed to the kitchen. The moment she was out of sight, I went to the woodshed, my secret armory. Grabbed the gun, loaded 30 rounds, and slipped into the darkness heading the direction Fat Kai's sedan chair had gone. Took me about half an hour to find them. They'd stopped at an abandoned shack because Fat Kai couldn't handle the pain of being bounced around in a chair. Through the thin walls, I could hear everything. That witch. Ah Fu, go to the county office. Find my brother-in-law Tang Guang. He's a constable. Have him arrest the woman and deliver her to my house. And throw Qin Chuan in prison. Boss, why bother with prison? Just kill him. It's wartime. Nobody cares about a dead refugee. You're right. A worthless vagrant like Qin Chuan. Kill 100 of them and nobody blinks. Perfect timing for my entrance. You know what? I actually agree with that last point completely. Every head in the room snapped toward the door. Their faces when they saw me walk in, alone, unarmed as far as they could tell, into a room full of people who wanted me dead, were absolutely priceless. Fat Kai recovered from his shock first and sneered. Heaven gives you a path, and you refuse it. Hell has no door, yet you walk right in. Since you're here, you can leave your life behind. His goons surrounded me in a circle. Swords drawn. Ugly grins everywhere. I didn't flinch. I looked directly at Ah Fu, the one who'd suggested killing me, and smiled. What you said earlier was very wise, Ah Fu. In times of war, a few deaths really don't attract attention. So let's start this little killing spree with you. Congratulations, You're about to become the first person in this world killed by modern weaponry. Quite an honor, really. Afu didn't even finish his tough guy speech. Mid-sentence, bang, lights out. Brain confetti. The first person in this world to experience modern firearms technology, and he didn't even get to appreciate it. You know what surprised me most? I felt nothing. No guilt, no horror, no shaking hands. Just excitement. Pure, electric excitement. These cockroaches wanted to steal my wife. Every single one of them deserved what was coming. I went through them like a bowling ball through pins. One shot, one drop. By the time the survivors figured out that running was an option, it was already too late. Bullets are faster than fat men in sandals. Who knew? Last one standing. Fat Kai himself, pants still wet from my wife's earlier kick, now adding a fresh layer of therapy. He offered me his house. His house. The crappy house I already bought from him. Genius logic. I told him, if I kill you, I get the house anyway. Goodbye, Fat Kai. Better luck in your next life. Maybe don't try stealing people's wives. I torched the shack, burned my bloody shirt with it, and strolled home shirtless, humming a tune. My wife was waiting with everything packed, ready to flee to the coast. Instead, I casually mentioned that Fat Kai's group had been struck by divine lightning and burned to ashes. Total freak accident. Very tragic. Thoughts and prayers. She wanted proof, so we walked over together. She saw the burning shack, recognized Fat Kai's sedan chair outside, and bought the story. She even had a little philosophical moment, wondering if karma was real, then deciding, nah, bad people thrive all the time. Kai just got unlucky. Smart woman. Wrong conclusion. But I'll take it. The real highlight of the evening? When I came home shirtless, I caught my checking me out. My skin's unusually pale for this world. Everyone here is sun-baked bronze, but I've got that modern indoor lifestyle complexion. Apparently ancient women go crazy for fair-skinned guys the same way they did in every Chinese drama I've ever watched. She tried to hide it. Don't bother changing clothes, she blurted out, then immediately panicked and invented some excuse about not wanting me to waste another shirt by falling down again. Sure, wifey. You just want the free show. I respect that. We went home and spent the rest of the night making oyster sauce together, side by side, like an actual married couple. She was genuinely helpful too, not just supervising. Having a gorgeous woman as a lab partner made the work fly by. Meanwhile, somewhere out in the darkness, trouble was riding toward us on horseback. Shangwan Xiong, assassin number 19, had officially accepted the contract. Some creepy guy in a black cloak confirmed that all my wife's bodyguards were dead. Every road out of the county was blocked, and she was definitely still hiding somewhere nearby. 10 days, the assassin promised. 10 days to deliver her corpse. But I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that somewhere around hour 3 of oyster sauce production, my wife had a little accident that left us frozen in a very, very awkward position together. Let me tell you about the greatest 24 hours of my entrepreneurial career. It started with a mouse. One stupid little mouse scurried across the kitchen floor while my wife and I were making oyster sauce. And this woman, who fights assassins, kicks grown men in the groin and holds knives to people's throats without flinching, leaped into my shirtless arms like a scared kitten. And there she stayed, pressed against my bare chest, her body going soft, her face turning red, her heartbeat going crazy against mine, my heartbeat going crazier. And then, certain parts of my anatomy decided to announce their enthusiasm for the situation. She felt that too. Qin Chuan. You pervert. She launched off me like a rocket, called me the pervert, even though SHE jumped on me, and sprinted to the bedroom so fast she left a dust trail. Meanwhile, I'm standing there like, excuse me, ma'am, you climbed the tree, don't blame the tree for existing. My conclusion? First she kissed me, then she jumped on me. At this rate, give it another week and she'll be proposing. I stayed up all night finishing 4 jars of oyster sauce. 40 tales of product, ready to sell. Passed out at sunrise, slept like the dead. Woke up in the afternoon to some excellent news. The village chief was running past my house shouting that Fat Kai and all his men had been struck by divine thunder and burned to charcoal. The official verdict? Heavenly punishment. The county inspectors took one look at the burned shack, found the crispy bodies, and declared it an act of God. Even better, those corrupt officials then went to Fat Kai's family and basically said, your relative angered heaven. If you don't donate your entire fortune to us for public welfare, you'll get struck by lightning too. Shook the family down for everything they had. This government is spectacularly corrupt. Honestly, if I were emperor, first order of business would be cleaning out these local parasites. But right now their greed was my best friend. Nobody was investigating murder when there was extortion money to collect. I joined the crowd of villagers gawking at the scene because not showing up would have looked suspicious. Nodded along. Said, "Karma is real," with everyone else. Oscar-worthy performance, second day in a row. Back home, my wife had her Ice Queen mask firmly back in place, pretending last night's mouse cuddle incident never happened. I told her I liked her better this way, cold and fierce. That actually broke her composure worse than a compliment would have. She practically ran back to her room. Turns out telling an Ice Queen you prefer her frozen is the ultimate smooth move. Who knew? Next day, Tian Tianxi dropped to his knees at the beach and swore eternal loyalty to me. Took him exactly one night to connect mysterious thunder sounds with dead Fat Kai. With Qin Chuan owns a thunder weapon. The kid's smarter than he looks. Not smart enough to figure out it's just a gun, but smart enough to know which side his bread is buttered on. Neodali knelt too, because monkey see, monkey do. I neither confirmed nor denied anything. Maximum mystique. That's leadership, baby. We cracked oysters like maniacs. 3 men. All day, 11 jars of oyster sauce by nightfall. 110 taels of potential revenue. The 100-tael target wasn't just reachable anymore. It was in the rearview mirror. Walked into Madame Wang's brothel the next morning carrying 10 extra jars on shoulder poles, and that woman practically floated off the ground with happiness. However many you have, I'll buy them all. Brothels are incredibly profitable, turns out. If a county-level pleasure house can drop 100 taels on condiments without blinking, imagine what the capital's establishments would pay. My brain was already doing the math. Imperial city prices, exclusive supply contracts, multiple clients. 3 wives? 4? Why stop there? With capital city oyster sauce money, I could afford a whole roster. Madame Wang had one condition: exclusive county supply rights. Only sell to her within this county. Honestly, perfect deal. This backwater town was just my starter zone anyway. The real money was in the capital, and I had zero interest in building a local empire when there was a real empire waiting for me. Besides, keeping a low profile meant keeping my wife safe from whoever was hunting her. Fewer business partners meant fewer people knowing my face. Of course, when a buyer says, "I want exclusivity," that's seller's market language. Time to raise prices. Negotiation time with Madame Wang. And guess what? When the buyer says, "I'll take everything you've got," that's when you raise the price. Basic economics. I bumped it from 10 to 15 taels per jar, and she didn't even blink. 11 jars at 15 each, 165 taels, just like that. Combined with my previous 8, I was sitting on 173 taels of silver. From broke refugee to richest man in the village in under a week. Fat Kai, rest in crispy pieces, probably never had this much cash at once. I needed to find the Bike Xiaoxing messenger organization for my wife's letter, but asking Madame Wang was too risky since she knew about the bounty on Nangong Wan. Instead, I sent Tian Tianxi into a tea house wearing a brand new scholar's robe I'd bought him. With his fancy vocabulary and snooty attitude, everyone assumed he was some kind of important official. 10 minutes of pretentious chatter later, he had the information we needed. This guy is actually useful. Who would have guessed? Treated both boys to a feast and handed them 5 taels each. Tian Tianxi stared at the silver like it was a holy relic. 5 taels was more money than he'd seen in his entire pathetic life. 5 taels is nothing, I told them, pointing dramatically toward the horizon. Follow me to the capital, and you'll have 500. 5,000. Maybe 50,000. Tian Tianxi hit the ground so fast his knees left dents. From now on, you are my father. Absolutely not. I'm not old enough to have a son your age. Call me boss, boss, hee boss. Boss, Neodali echoed happily, understanding approximately 12% of what was happening. Rushed home and showed my wife the full stack, 163 taels after expenses. Her eyes went wide. She looked at me with this complicated expression I couldn't quite read. Gratitude? Respect? Guilt? Something was churning behind those beautiful eyes, but she buried it fast and handed me a sealed letter. Deliver this to Lanyu County, not Dongling County. The officials here can't be trusted. Smart woman. I'd seen firsthand how every checkpoint and road around here was crawling with people hunting for her. On my ride to Lanyu County, which cost me 20 taels for a horse, by the way, ancient car prices basically, I passed over a dozen checkpoints. Every single one had guards comparing women's faces to a wanted poster. My wife's wanted poster. The enemy had the local government completely in their pocket. No wonder she didn't want me to just escort her home on foot. Dropped 100 taels at the Baixioshing office in Lanyu County. They guaranteed 3-day delivery to the capital. Expensive postal service, but when your wife is being hunted by ranked assassins, you don't cheap out on shipping. Made it home safe. My wife actually smiled when she saw me. A real, genuine, relieved smile. She calculated that her people could arrive within 5 days, 3 for delivery, 2 for her family's rescue team, to ride here at maximum speed. 5 more days. Then we head to the capital, I meet the in-laws, and phase 2 of my life plan begins. I spent those days hauling oysters with the boys while my wife tagged along to the beach. She seemed different, softer, almost like she was trying to memorize these moments. Our little seaside oyster harvesting dates. The salty air. The simple routine of a fake married couple doing fake married things. Something told me she knew this couldn't last forever. That made me want to enjoy it even more. What I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly have known, was that the letter had already been delivered to the capital, and the people who received it weren't her family's loyal protectors. They were the traitors who'd sold her out in the first place. The shadow guard she trusted most, a warrior woman named Ling Ran, was working for a masked psychopath who wanted my wife not just dead, but destroyed, humiliated, broken. This masked freak was sending Ling Ran and the assassin Shangwan Xiong to our village, arriving in 2 days. The 100 taels I'd spent to save my wife had just painted a giant bullseye on our front door. But I was blissfully ignorant, dreaming about capital city brothel sauce contracts and wife number 2. Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. For about 48 more hours, anyway. 4 days at the beach with my wife, and something changed between us. I'd catch her watching me while I cooked oyster sauce, and not with her usual, "I want to murder you" expression. There was something softer in those cold eyes, something almost warm. She laughed at Tian Tianxi's ridiculous flattery. She giggled at Niu Dali's dumb happy clapping. She laughed freely, loudly, like a woman who'd forgotten she was allowed to enjoy life. Honestly, those were probably the best 4 days of either of my lives. Production-wise, we absolutely crushed it. 30 jars of oyster sauce, ready for market. At 15 taels each, that's 450 taels. I would have kept going. 1,000 taels was the dream, but my wife said her family's people were arriving tomorrow. Time to meet the in-laws. Who's coming to get you? Your brother? Your dad? More like. My sister. Sister? My brain immediately went to maximum alert. Sister-in-law. Every man's favorite relative. If she's even half as gorgeous as my wife, I might have just found wife number 2 without even reaching the capital. I am a terrible person and I regret nothing. Loaded all 30 jars onto a borrowed ox cart and hauled them to Madame Wang with Tian Tianxi. She bought every single jar without hesitation. At this point, she was clearly reselling at a massive markup. Probably had buyers lined up across the county. Good for her. My eyes were on the capital anyway, where these prices would look like pocket change. This time I took the payment mostly as a 500 tael banknote instead of raw silver. Lighter to carry, easier to hide. Total net worth, somewhere north of 500 taels. From penniless refugee to small-time tycoon in about a week. Grabbed some meat and wine from the market, handed booze and bonuses to my boys, and told them the big news. Pack your bags. We're heading to the capital soon. Tian Tianxi practically levitated with excitement. Niu Dali clapped his giant hands and went, "Hee, capital, capital." Neither of them had ever left this county in their lives. Then came the evening that nearly killed me. My wife was acting strange, quiet, thoughtful, looking at me with that complicated expression again, like she was memorizing my face. She poured 2 bowls of wine and made an announcement that should have set off every alarm bell in my body. Qin Xuan. Tonight we drink under the moon. We don't stop until we're drunk. Yes. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Get the Ice Queen tipsy, lower those defenses, maybe something magical happens under the moonlight. Except I forgot one critical detail about my wife. She drinks like a fish. Turns out when you're secretly the ruler of an empire, pretending to be a man, you spend a lot of time drinking with generals and soldiers at military banquets. My wife has been power drinking with hardened warriors since she was a teenager. Her tolerance is absolutely monstrous. Me? I went to maybe 3 college parties in my entire previous life. 2 beers, and I'm singing karaoke with strangers. 3 cups of this weak rice wine, and my head was spinning. The world went fuzzy. And then, lights out. I passed out cold at the table like a lightweight freshman at his first frat party. My grand seduction plan, spectacular failure. 0 out of 10. Now, here's the thing. I was unconscious for what happened next. Completely, totally, blissfully knocked out. But based on certain evidence, I later pieced together, my wife did something very interesting while I was asleep. She remembered our close encounter from a few days ago, the mouse incident, the body contact, that mysterious feeling that made her go weak. And with liquid courage flowing through her veins, and nobody watching, and me lying there defenseless and oblivious, she got curious, very curious. Apparently my wife, the untouchable ice empress who'd threatened to kill me for a stolen kiss, scooted over, wrapped her arms around my unconscious body, and just held me, breathing me in, feeling that mysterious masculine energy she couldn't explain. And then her hands started wandering toward my shirt buttons. The one night I'm unconscious. The one night. The universe has a sixth sense of humor, and I am the punchline. I woke up the next morning with a splitting headache and deep, deep regret. 3 cups of rice wine, and I passed out like a baby. My wife outdrinks hardened military generals, and I got demolished by what's basically ancient Bud Light. Pathetic. The worst part? I had the nagging feeling I'd missed something important while I was unconscious. My shirt felt looser, like someone had unbuttoned it and put it back. My wife was acting weirdly guilty, avoiding eye contact, hiding little smiles behind her sleeve. Did something happen? I'll never know. And that haunts me. She snapped me out of my hangover spiral fast. Aren't you supposed to be preparing dinner for my sister? Get moving, right? Sister-in-law day? Operation Impress the family. I cooked up a feast and waited, and waited, and waited some more. The whole day crawled by until finally, at dusk, hoofbeats thundered outside. I sprinted to the gate like a kid on Christmas morning. The woman on that horse nearly broke my brain. Sharp features, fierce eyes, tall athletic build, and a chest that defied the laws of physics and anatomy. Like someone drew a manga character, and she just stepped out of the page into reality. She radiated this wild, untamed energy, a Mustang that nobody had ever managed to saddle. Wife number 2 material? Absolutely wife number 2 material. This was Ling Ran, my wife's sister, here to rescue us. Except she wasn't here to rescue anyone. But I didn't know that yet. She vaulted over my fence without even glancing at me, completely ignored my existence, walked straight to my wife like I was furniture. Hey, sister-in-law, your brother-in-law is right here. At least say hello, I called out, waving like an idiot. She turned, looked me up and down with the expression you'd give a bug on your shoe, and went, oh yeah? Definitely needs taming. Challenge accepted. My wife had her eat with us. The food impressed even this ice-cold warrior woman, though she tried to hide it. Everything seemed fine. Normal family dinner. Sister visiting, husband cooking, moonlight on the table. Then my wife drained her wine, and things went sideways fast. Within minutes, Nangong Wan's breathing went ragged. Her face flushed deep red. Her body started trembling. Something was very, very wrong, and it wasn't the alcohol. Ling Ran dropped her chopsticks, clapped her hands, and smiled like a cat watching a mouse walk into a trap. You can come out now. From the shadows behind our house stepped the ugliest man I've ever seen. Scarred face, killer's eyes, stinking of blood and violence. I am Shangwan Xiong, he announced, staring at my wife like she was meat on a plate. Ranked 19th on the assassin leaderboard. My wife's face went white. Not from the drug, from the betrayal. Ling Ran, her most trusted subordinate, the woman she'd called sister, had sold her out. Poisoned her wine with something called harmony powder, a drug that drives women insane with desire, traps them in hallucinations, and eventually kills them if they don't. Well, soon you'll be begging him to touch you, Ling Ran purred. And if you resist until the end, you die anyway. Shangwan Xiong was practically drooling. Such a generous gift. Letting me have such a beauty, then hurry up and enjoy her, Ling Ran said casually. My wife, drugged, burning up, barely able to stand, used her last shred of willpower to scream at me. Qin Chuan, run. They're trained killers. You can't fight them. Please, Ling Ran blocked the exit. He's not going anywhere. I want him to watch. That was the moment everything inside me went cold and quiet. Not scared, not panicked, just ice. I stepped forward. Every eye turned to me, the harmless village idiot, the tool, the nobody. Excuse me, I said. My woman is right there, and you two are discussing who gets to assault her like I'm not even in the room. Ling Ran laughed. A peasant playing hero? How adorable. Oh, I'm not playing anything. I looked directly at Ling Ran, at that perfect body, that arrogant sneer, those traitor's eyes. You wanted my wife humiliated? Here's what's actually going to happen tonight. Shangwan Xiong dies. And you? You're going to deeply, deeply regret walking into my yard. They both erupted into laughter. The assassin, the traitor, cackling like I'd told the funniest joke in the world. My wife was screaming at me to stop being stupid, to run, to save myself. But running was never an option. Not tonight. Not ever. Today, I said, grinning as my fingers closed around the cold metal behind my back. This spotlight is mine. Shangwan Xiong was drooling over my wife like a starving dog at a steak dinner. Ling Ran was cheering him on like this was entertainment. And my wife, drugged out of her mind, burning up, barely conscious, was begging me to run away. Run? From this? Ling Ran turned to me with this smug little speech. Village boy, you should watch closely. Your wife's body is flawless, white as jade, smooth beyond imagination. You probably never got to see it yourself, so consider this a free show before I kill you. Lady, you have no idea what's about to happen. Shangwan Xiong rubbed his disgusting hands together and lunged at my wife like an animal. Bang! One bullet. Center mass. The ranked assassin, number 19 on the national leaderboard, killer of hundreds, never failed professional murderer, dropped to the ground like a sack of wet rice. Didn't even scream. Just thud. Ling Ran's face was priceless. Pure confusion. She looked around wildly, scanning rooftops and bushes for hidden attackers. She ran over to Shangwan Xiong, kicked him, flipped him over, saw the massive hole in his chest, and her brain completely short-circuited. Who did this? Show yourself, coward. She was looking everywhere. Behind trees, over walls, into the darkness. Everywhere except at me. Standing right there, holding the gun, in plain sight. This woman was so convinced I was worthless that even after watching a man drop dead 3 feet from me, her brain literally refused to consider I might be responsible. I could have been wearing a neon sign saying, I did it, and she'd have looked behind the sign for the real killer. Fine. Time for round 2. I needed precision here. See, my plan wasn't just to stop Ling Ran. It was to disable her without killing her. Why? Well, let's just say I had plans for this treacherous beauty that required her to be alive and mostly intact. Both arms, specifically, those needed to go offline first. I aimed at her forearms and squeezed twice. Bang bang. Both shots connected perfectly. Her arms jerked, blood sprayed, and that arrogant warrior queen face twisted in agony. But credit where it's due, she didn't scream. Instead, she spun around shouting, hidden weapons. Coward. Show yourself still. Not looking at me. I'm standing right here holding a smoking gun, and she's yelling at bushes. The disrespect is almost impressive at this point. I aimed for her legs next, pulled the trigger, and missed. Because this woman moved like a ghost. 1 second she was 10 feet away, next second she was right in my face. Half a meter between us, arms dangling, bleeding everywhere, but standing there with murder in her eyes. So it was you, she hissed. This close. I can kill you before you fire again. My heart was pounding. Ancient martial arts are real. Internal energy, Lightfoot techniques, all real. She crossed that distance faster than any human should be able to move. If I'd hesitated 1 more second targeting her legs from far away, she might have reached me and it'd be game over. But here's the thing about guns at point-blank range. You literally cannot miss. I dropped to a crouch and fired twice into her legs before she could blink. Down she went, all 4 limbs disabled. The mighty Shadow Guard commander, sprawled on my courtyard dirt, unable to do anything but glare and bleed. I stepped on her head, gently, but firmly. So, how exactly were you planning to kill me again? She couldn't answer that, but she tried to salvage her pride. Just finish it. Being killed by a member of the Divine Mechanism sect is an honorable death. Divine Mechanism sect? Some hidden weapons guild? She thought I belonged to a secret martial arts organization. She'd rather believe that than accept she got demolished by an ordinary villager with a magic tube. Never heard of them. That's not me. Then kill me and stop talking. Kill you? Oh no. No, no. I grinned down at her. Remember what you planned for my wife? Remember that little drug you brought? What was your phrase? Self-inflicted consequences. Well, I searched her body and found the jade bottle of harmony powder. Her face went from defiant to terrified in one heartbeat. That arrogant, untamable wild horse expression cracked wide open. You wouldn't. I told you I'd make you taste your own medicine. Literally, she clamped her mouth shut like a steel trap. Smart girl, but not smart enough. I shot her in the leg one more time. Mouth open. Powder in. Hand over mouth. Swallow. She fought it. She thrashed. But with that much powder hitting her system at once, the drug kicked in almost immediately. Her furious eyes went glassy and unfocused. That fierce warrior face melted into something very, very different. And then, because the universe apparently decided tonight was my night, my drugged wife, who'd completely lost her mind to the first dose of the powder, looked around the yard, saw that I was the only man still standing, and threw herself at me. Both of them, at the same time. One drugged by a traitor, one drugged by karma. And me, standing in a courtyard full of blood and bodies, with two of the most beautiful women in the empire clinging to me like their lives depended on it. This is either the best night of my life, or the most complicated. Probably both. My wife threw herself at me, kissing me like the world was ending. Wild, desperate, completely out of her mind on that drug. Was it romantic? No. Was it technically taking advantage? Technically, yes. But Ling Ran literally said the drug would kill her without treatment. What kind of husband would I be if I let my wife die from lack of medical attention? Forgive me, wifey. I must sacrifice my pure, innocent body to save your life. I carried her to the bedroom, laid her on the bed, and went back outside to handle unfinished business. Shangwan Xiong, who I'd shot in the chest, was somehow crawling toward the gate. This cockroach was trying to escape. How many bullets does it take to kill an ancient world assassin? Are they made of steel? I put another round in his back. He fell, begged for mercy, offered me money. Why does everyone offer me money after I've decided to kill them? If I kill you, your money becomes mine anyway. That's just basic economics. He tried one more angle. I'll serve you. I'm ranked 19th. Think of the power. You tried to touch my wife. There's no negotiation after that. One sword through the heart. Then 15 more stabs, just to make absolutely sure. In this world, these martial arts people are like horror movie villains. You think they're dead, and then they get back up. Not taking any chances. Now for the main event. I bandaged up Ling Ran's bullet wounds. Couldn't have her bleeding everywhere. That's unhygienic. Scooped her up and carried her to the bedroom. Opened the door, and my brain stopped functioning. My wife had already torn off every piece of clothing. Everything. Just there. In full glory. And Ling Ran wasn't lying earlier. The body was absolutely, impossibly, mathematically perfect. My years of educational video research had not prepared me for anything on this level. She saw me and lunged. Full contact. Zero barriers. Skin like warm silk against mine. Wifey, your husband is here to administer the antidote. I tossed Ling Ran onto the floor. She could wait her turn, and placed my wife on the bed. She was flushed, eyes glazed, lips parted, looking like every man's impossible fantasy brought to life. Beast. A woman screamed behind me. Before I could even turn around, something cracked against my skull, and the world went black. Somebody hit me. In my own house. During the most important moment of my life. When I came to, sunlight was streaming through the window. An entire night had passed. I panicked immediately. My wife. Was she safe? Was she hurt? I checked myself. Not tied up. Gun still in my pocket. Weird. What kind of attacker knocks you out, and then just leaves you comfortably on a bed with your weapon? The door opened. My wife walked in, fully dressed, cold expression restored, completely fine. No signs of harm. Behind her stood the woman who'd knocked me out, Sharp eyes, black clothes, sword at her hip. I reached for my gun. Her name is Qingyue. She's on our side, my wife said flatly. Relax, on our side? She caved my skull enduring the most critical medical procedure of the century. I mentally cursed this woman and every attractive female member of her extended family. But wait, the drug, the poison. My wife still needed the cure. I put on my most concerned husband face. Wifey, the harmony powder hasn't been neutralized yet. This is urgent. Your husband must administer treatment immediately. The drug wears off by itself after one night of rest. No treatment needed, Qingyue cut in. It wears off. By itself? But Ling Ran said, she lied. I stood there, mouth open, brain rebooting. That treacherous woman told us the drug was fatal without a man's help, and we believed her. I believed her very enthusiastically. Last night never happened, my wife declared, ice cold. We will never speak of it again. Then she and Qingyue walked to the woodshed to interrogate Ling Ran. I tried to follow. I had some words for that lying traitor, but Qingyue put her sword against my throat. The interrogation is private. Stay out or face consequences. Another violent woman. My collection is growing whether I want it or not. I sat on my stone bench, fuming, and noticed the yard was spotless. Shangwan Xiong's body? Gone. Blood? Cleaned. Qingyue had sanitized my entire crime scene overnight while I was unconscious. Efficient woman. Terrifying, but efficient. From inside the shed, I heard Ling Ran's mocking laughter, and she dropped the real bombshell that nearly stopped my heart. Your Majesty, I can tell from your energy that you're still untouched. But don't celebrate. The drug doesn't just vanish. You've only suppressed it temporarily. In 3 months, without a man's attention, the poison will activate fully and kill you. My wife screamed at her to shut up. And then it hit me. Qingyue had lied to me. The drug isn't harmless. My wife genuinely needs treatment within 3 months or she dies. They just didn't want me to know that, which means sooner or later, my wife is going to need exactly one thing that only I can provide. The universe giveth, the universe cockblocketh, and the universe giveth again. 3 months. Clock's ticking, wifey. My grand plan to cure my wife's poison got shut down hard. Turns out Qingyue told me the drug wears off overnight by itself. No male treatment needed. Case closed. Party over. Go sit down. Except here's the thing. While my wife was interrogating Ling Ran in the woodshed, I heard something very interesting through those thin walls. Ling Ran was laughing, cackling like a maniac, actually, taunting my wife. Your Majesty, there is no antidote for harmony powder. You've only suppressed it temporarily. 3 months, that's all you have. Then either a man solves your problem, or you die. Wait. Your Majesty? Did she just call my wife? Your Majesty? Before I could process that little bombshell, there was screaming, stabbing sounds, more laughing, more threats. Whatever was happening in that shed was absolutely brutal. My wife was clearly no stranger to aggressive questioning. Ling Ran dropped another bomb. She'd told her allies that if she didn't return by noon, they'd send an army to this village. Clock was ticking. We needed to run. My wife came out of the shed looking like she'd walked through a hurricane of bad news. She exchanged whispered words with Qingyue, then turned to me. We're leaving. Come with us. Finally. Road trip with the wife. Let's go. Miss, we can't bring this dead weight. Qingyue interrupted, pointing at me like I was garbage on the sidewalk. Dead weight. Dead weight. Me. The guy who single-handedly killed a ranked assassin and disabled a Shadow Guard commander last night. Excuse me? What are you joking about? I was so mad I accidentally yelled in English. Qingyue blinked. What kind of bird language is that? It's called English. A foreign language. You wouldn't understand because, forget it. Point is, I am not dead weight. I've traveled every nation in the known world, she sniffed. Nobody speaks that nonsense. Lady, the world is about 50 times bigger than your tiny imagination thinks it is. What you call every nation is like one small corner. She ignored that and went straight for the kill shot. You have zero internal energy. Your footwork is sloppy. We're running from killers. You are a liability. I defeated Ling Ran and Shangwan Xiong last night. With my own hands. Does your conscience not hurt right now? Qingyue shook her head with absolute certainty. I examined their wounds. Those injuries were caused by master-level hidden weapons powered by enormous internal energy, wounds that penetrate deep into bone. Only a grandmaster could do that. You don't have a drop of internal energy. Oh my God. My theory, she continued, is that someone from the Divine Mechanism sect, a hidden master, was secretly protecting the Empress last night. They saved her and disappeared because their sect has an ancient oath not to interfere in worldly affairs. The Divine Mechanism sect again. These people invented an entire conspiracy theory rather than accept that I, a regular guy, killed 2 elite warriors. They literally cannot compute a world where a villager with no kung fu wins a fight. Their brains just error 404 and invent invisible grandmasters. I reach for my gun. Time to demonstrate. Enough. My wife's voice cracked like a whip. Full imperial authority mode. Qin Chuan is my husband. He comes with us. End of discussion. She called me husband. Not in that grudging, forced, swallowing medicine way from before. She said it with conviction. In front of her subordinate. Publicly claiming me. My heart did a backflip. Qinghua tried to object one more time. My wife shut her down with a single look. The kind of look that makes trained killers suddenly remember they have somewhere else to be. Qinghua, get the horses. Qin Chuan, pack our things. We go over the back mountain and avoid the main roads. I yawned and stretched. Actually, wifey, you don't need to take the mountain route. Follow me. I know a way that'll get us past all of them. Qinghua spun around. What could a village peasant possibly? That was it. Final straw. Today I was going to smash this woman's smug little worldview into a million pieces. Nothing could stop me. Not logic. Not manners. Not divine intervention. Jesus himself could walk through that gate and I'd say, take a number, Lord. I'm busy proving a point. Qinghua thought I was crazy when I said we'd escape by sea. The ocean is huge. No way to navigate. We'll get lost and die. Cute argument. Would be valid if I weren't a guy with a chemistry degree from the 21st century. I walked into the kitchen, came back with a bowl of water, a reed, and a magnetized needle floating on top. Homemade compass. The needle points north and south no matter what you do to it. Spin it, shake it, flip the bowl upside down. It always snaps right back. Qinghua tried to debunk it by smacking the needle around like it owed her money. North. Every single time. North. Her face went through confusion, denial, and finally landed on, oh no, the village idiot is smarter than me. My wife stared at the needle like I'd just invented fire. How does this work? Magnetic fields. I said, mysterious smile at full power. She had zero idea what that meant. Nobody in this world does. That's the beauty of being a transmigrator. Everything I know sounds like sorcery. Qingyue's arrogance collapsed like a sandcastle in a tsunami. She actually bowed to me. I was ignorant and disrespectful. Please forgive me, sir. Music to my ears. But why stop at, sir? Don't call me sir. Call me Brother Chuan. She looked at my wife for permission, face turning tomato red. This stone-cold killer who murders people for breakfast couldn't bring herself to call a man brother. She choked on it like she was swallowing a live fish. Be brother. C.H. Chuan, glorious. Grab the boys next. Tian Tianxi and Niu Dali were already packed and ready. I'd promised them the capital, and they weren't about to miss that train. Gave each of their families 20 taels as a going-away fund. Their relatives practically built a shrine to me on the spot. 20 taels to a poor mountain family is generational wealth. We rode to the coast, chopped down pine and cypress trees, and built a raft in half an hour. Niu Dali was an absolute machine, hauling logs that would take 3 normal men, snapping branches like toothpicks. Worth every tael I'd ever paid him. Sail up. Compass set. Wind at our backs. No pursuers in sight. The rebels never imagined anyone would be insane enough to take the Forbidden Ocean route. As the coastline shrank behind us, I stood at the front of the raft, sea spray in my face, and screamed toward the horizon. Capital City. Qin Chuan is coming for you. Tian Tianxi is also coming, my loyal scholar yelled behind me. Me too, added Niu Dali, because of course he did. My wife smiled. Not her forced smile. Not her polite smile. A real one, the kind that made her whole face glow. She was going home. Back to power, back to safety, back to her real life. 10 days on the open ocean. 10 days of salt air, sunburns, bad sleep, and my compass proving itself worth more than gold every single night. Then we hit a deserted beach and made landfall. Half a day of riding west, and there it was, a city on the horizon. Qinghua confirmed it. Lincheng, just 100 miles from the capital. One hard ride, and we'd be there by nightfall. I'm about to meet my father-in-law, I announced, grinning ear to ear. The color drained from my wife's face so fast I thought she'd fainted standing up. Pure panic flashed across those beautiful eyes before she wrestled it back under control. Funny reaction for a woman about to be reunited with. Daddy, don't you think? Something told me the capital was going to be full of surprises. And I was absolutely, completely, 100% ready for whatever came next. My wife is a genius. Within 30 seconds of panicking about me meeting Daddy, she'd already cooked up a plan. She whispered something to Qinghua, who immediately turned to me with a perfectly rehearsed excuse. Brother Chuan, why don't you rest here in Lincheng tonight? Our master loves guests. Let me ride ahead and arrange a proper welcome. We'll send people to escort you into the capital tomorrow. Nice and grand. The magic words, nice and grand. I'm a simple man. Promise me a red carpet entrance, and I'll agree to almost anything. Go ahead, Sister Qinghua. Tell father-in-law his favorite son-in-law is almost there. She grabbed Ling ran, mounted up, and vanished toward the capital. Meanwhile, we entered Lincheng, and wow, an actual city. People everywhere, shops open, streets buzzing. Compared to our ghost town county, this place felt like Times Square. First priority, scope out the local talent. I'm heading to the capital partly for business, partly for wives too through whatever. Scanned every woman on the street, and nothing. Nobody even close to my standards. My wife, walking beside me, made every other female in the city look like a rough draft. She caught me staring at her. Weeks ago that look would have earned me a death glare. Today, she almost seemed pleased, like she was savoring being looked at. Something had changed between us, and we both knew it. There's an inn. Let's stay the night, I pointed ahead. She agreed. We walked in, and I slapped 2 tails on the counter like a boss. 3 premium rooms, my good man. 2 rooms, my wife corrected. I blinked. Wifey, I've got plenty of money. I am not sharing a bed with the dragon and phoenix. Neo Dolly snores like a dying buffalo. They get 1 room. We share the other. Processing. Error. Does not compute. Did you just say? We sleep together. We're husband and wife. Husband and wife sleep together. She said it with a smile. An actual, warm, genuine smile. My brain blue-screened. This woman, who'd held a knife ready to stab me on our first night, who made me sleep in a woodshed for days, who threatened murder if I touched her, just volunteered to share a bed with me. You're serious? Do you not want to? Her eyebrow arched dangerously. Yes, absolutely. Dreams come true. Small second, 2 rooms. Keep the change. Hot water. Best food you've got. Move it. The room was nice. 30 square meters. Proper furniture, screens, and 2 bathtubs behind a partition. Staff filled them with hot water and left us alone. 10 days of ocean salt caked on both of us. We desperately needed baths. Wifey, how about we take a couple's bath together? Very efficient. Saves water. Good for the environment. Separate baths. You first. Fair enough. Can't win them all. I started stripping down, and, oh look, my wife was sneaking glances at my body again. Same thing as last time. Pretending to look away while her eyes kept drifting back. Wifey, if you want to look, just look. No need to be sneaky about it. She whipped around so fast her neck cracked. I was not looking. Sure you weren't, sweetheart. Sure you weren't. I took my bath. She left the room entirely because apparently the sound of me bathing was too much for her to handle. When she came back and took her turn, she emerged looking like a goddess rising from a lake. Fresh, glowing, absolutely devastating. Bedtime. My heart was hammering so hard she could probably hear it. I patted the mattress beside me. It's late, wifey. Time to sleep. Rules, she said firmly. We sleep. Nothing else. You don't touch me. Understood? Absolutely. I am a man of my word. Hands to myself. Scout's honor. You'd better be. Her voice said, warning. Her eyes said something completely different. She lay down next to me. Our first time sharing a bed. Her warmth, her scent, her breathing, inches away from me. I kept my promise. Didn't move a finger. Perfect gentleman. But then SHE started having problems. Her breathing got heavier. Her body temperature was rising. I could feel the heat radiating off her. She started shifting restlessly, making these tiny sounds she was trying desperately to suppress. The harmony powder. That damn drug was still inside her. Sleeping next to me, next to a man, was waking it back up. The closer she got, the stronger the effect. She was fighting it. Hard. Every muscle in her body was tense, trying to resist the chemical fire spreading through her system. But I could tell from her breathing, from her trembling, from the way she kept inching closer without meaning to. She was losing. And me? I was lying there, perfectly still, keeping my promise like an idiot, while the most beautiful woman in the empire was slowly being overwhelmed by an irresistible desire to devour me. The universe's cruelest joke. I finally got into bed with my wife, and the one night she might actually want me is the night I promised not to touch her. That night in the inn, my wife's body betrayed every word she'd ever said about not wanting me. We were lying side by side, me keeping my hands perfectly still like I promised, when I felt her fingers land on my back, light as a feather, trembling slightly. Then, before my brain could even process what was happening, she flipped me over, pinned me down, and kissed me like she was trying to steal my soul through my mouth. I, Qin Xuan, was being aggressively kissed by the most beautiful woman in the empire, without lifting a single finger. Did I complain? Reader, I did not complain. She couldn't stop. The harmony powder inside her had reawakened. Sleeping next to a man was basically pouring gasoline on smoldering embers. Her rational mind was screaming, "Stop!" But her body had already filed for divorce from her brain and was operating independently. Things escalated. Fast. Clothes started coming off. Hers first, and once again I was confronted with a body so perfect that my previous life's entire internet history couldn't compete. Then mine. Full mutual disclosure. Nothing between us but moonlight and heavy breathing. We crashed off the bed. Didn't care. Knocked into furniture. Didn't care. The entire room was becoming a battlefield and nothing was going to stop. Crack. Something fell off the table and smashed directly onto my skull. OWWW. My head. I grabbed my cranium, seeing stars. A jade bottle had shattered on impact, and suddenly this incredibly potent cooling medicine splashed everywhere. The scent hit like a bucket of ice water dumped on a bonfire. My wife snapped out of it instantly. 1 second she was a woman possessed. Next second she was blinking in the dark going, "What just happened?" Turns out Qingwei had left her a bottle of mind-clearing medicine that could temporarily suppress the harmony powder. We'd been so occupied that my wife completely forgot it existed. Our enthusiastic furniture destruction knocked it off the table and onto my head, simultaneously concussing me and curing her. The universe's timing is impeccable. And by impeccable, I mean absolutely evil. She got dressed. My hopes deflated like a punctured balloon. But then, she hugged me from behind. Soft, warm, real. "Can we just hold each other tonight?" My heart melted into a puddle. "Can we still do the other thing too?" She paused. I could feel her actually considering it. Then, I checked. My monthly came. Tonight is impossible. Monthly. Of all the nights in the entire lunar calendar, what about after? I asked, because a man must have hope. Old Nangong Wan would have said, absolutely never. Don't even dream about it. But tonight's version whispered, depends on how well you behave. Something had fundamentally shifted inside her. Whatever walls she'd built against men, against intimacy, against me, tonight had cracked them wide open. We held each other all night. She slept like a baby in my arms, the deepest, most peaceful sleep of her entire life, she told me later. Woke up the next morning still tangled together. She smiled at me. Not her cold smile. Not her polite smile. The real one. The one that makes the whole world go quiet. Then reality knocked. Qingwei was back from the capital with a whole entourage. An old man playing the role of family butler. Someone named Uncle Fu bowed to me and called me young master-in-law. Uncle Fu, what an honor. I've heard so much about you, I said, shaking his hand like we were old friends. My wife and Qingwei exchanged a look. The man was a hired actor they'd met 12 hours ago, and I was saying, I've heard so much. They probably wanted to die from the irony. We loaded into a fancy carriage and rode toward the capital. When those massive city walls appeared on the horizon, my heart started racing. This was where everything began. Real money, real power, real women. One quick scan of the streets confirmed my suspicions. The talent level here was significantly higher than anywhere I'd been. Wife candidates 2 through infinity were definitely somewhere in this city. The carriage stopped at a grand estate. Father-in-law and mother-in-law were waiting inside, professional actors who actually looked like they could be my wife's parents. Qing Yue's casting skills were honestly impressive. After some pleasantries, Daddy got straight to business. Qin Chuan, thank you for saving my daughter. However, our family does not recognize the government's matchmaking policy. I'll give you 2 options. Option 1, walk away, and I'll give you 10,000 taels of silver. Enough to live like a king forever. Option 2, if you insist on marrying my daughter, you must first become either a famous literary master or place in the top 3 of the imperial examinations. Those are the only men worthy of the Nangong family name. This was my wife's trap. She designed it to be impossible, a village peasant becoming a literary genius or acing the national exams. That's never happened in the entire history of this world. She expected me to take the money and disappear. But here's what she didn't expect. Her own heart had changed. Part of her, the part that held me all night, the part that kissed me in the dark, secretly wanted me to choose her. Even though she knew it was impossible. Even though she couldn't marry me anyway. Everyone in the room waited for the obvious answer. 10,000 taels. A fortune beyond imagination. Any sane man would take the money. I grinned. Father-in-law, those conditions aren't exactly difficult. I'll go with option 2. I'll become a great literary master. The room went dead silent. Everyone in the room stared at me like I'd just announced I could fly. Fake dad. Sorry, father-in-law. Tried his best to talk me down. He gave this whole speech about how the emperor had attracted the greatest minds in the world to the capital, how there were 4 great scholars and 3 great poetesses, how becoming a famous literary master was basically impossible for anyone, let alone a village peasant with dirt under his fingernails. Very dramatic. Very convincing. 0 effect on me. Those 4 great scholars? 3 great poetesses? If they met me, they'd be lining up to carry my books, I said. The actor playing my father-in-law completely forgot his lines. His mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. He looked at my wife for help. She just sighed. She gave him a secret hand signal, 5 fingers, meaning 5 months. He recovered and declared, fine, 5 months. If you can become a recognized literary master in 5 months, you pass my test. I only need 1 chance, I said. Qingyue jumped in with helpful directions. There's a poetry gathering at the Heavenly Crane Tower every month on the 15th. Next month, they're holding a big poetry competition. Win that, and you'll be famous overnight. Perfect. 1 competition, 1 victory. Done. Then I push my luck further. So, father-in-law, since this literary thing is basically already handled, let's talk wedding gifts. How much are we talking? My wife held up 3 fingers toward the actor. She meant 3,000 taels. Reasonable. Challenging, but doable. The actor saw 3 fingers and said, 30,000 taels. My wife's eye twitched. She'd meant 3,000. This idiot multiplied by 10. But she couldn't correct him without blowing the whole act, so she just let it ride. 30,000 taels. That's an insane amount of money. Most wealthy families don't have that much liquid cash. Deal, I said. Everyone in the room looked at me like I needed medical attention. Here's my actual thinking. Becoming a literary master in this world is laughably easy for me. These people have never heard of Li Bai. They've never read Su Shi. They don't know Du Fu, Li Qingzhao, or any of the greatest poets in Chinese history. I have 300 Tang Dynasty poems memorized from high school. Every single one is a masterpiece that nobody in this dimension has ever encountered. I could recite Quiet Night Thought at a bus stop, and these people would fall to their knees weeping. The real challenge was pretending this was difficult. As for 30,000 taels, well, if I can earn it, great. If I can't, I've got a gun and 0 respect for fake in-laws. Worst case scenario, I just take my wife. Plan B is always armed robbery with extra steps. They kicked me out of the estate. Can't have you living with our daughter before the wedding, people will talk, and set me up in a very nice compound on the east side of the city. 3 courtyards, dozens of rooms, servants already arranged. Not bad for a test. My wife lingered before leaving. Something had changed between us after last night. She held my eyes longer than usual. When I pulled her into a hug right there in front of everyone, she didn't resist. When I kissed her, she didn't stab me. I'll come visit when I can, she whispered. She meant it. Every word. Then she was gone. Back to her father's house. Back to whatever secret life she actually lived. Back to being whoever she really was, which I was increasingly certain was not a merchant's daughter. The moment she left, I stretched and turned to Qingyue. Take me to the red light district. Her hand went to her sword so fast it blurred. You want to visit brothels? Your wife just left and you're already. Relax, killer. I've got the most beautiful woman in the empire waiting for me. Why would I want discount versions? I need to visit the entertainment district for business. Oyster sauce, remember? Those places are my biggest customers. Her sword hand slowly lowered. Her eyes still said, one wrong move, and I'll gut you like a fish. Perfect. Another violent woman in my growing collection. This capital adventure was off to an excellent start. Qingyue nearly drew her sword when I said, red light district, but I calmed her down fast. Listen, the easiest money in the world is money spent by women. I'm not going there for fun. I'm going for business intelligence. Also, show me the cosmetic shops on the way. She looked at me like I was speaking alien language, which, technically, I had done once already today. You're actually trying to earn 30,000 taels? I thought you were just stalling until you could run off with the boss's daughter. Smart girl. That was my backup plan. But plan A was always better. Why steal a wife when you can buy one legitimately and look like a hero doing it? Oyster sauce won't cut it this time, I admitted. The ocean is hundreds of miles from here. Even if Tian Tianxi and Neo Dali hauled oysters until their legs fell off, we'd never hit 30,000. I need a new product, a new market. And cosmetic shops plus entertainment districts are where the real money flows. She suggested we wait until nightfall since the capital has no curfew and everything gets livelier after dark. Good thinking. We ate dinner first. Now, while I was planning my next business empire over a bowl of rice, my wife was having a very different evening. I obviously didn't witness any of this personally, but based on what I pieced together later, the moment Nangong Wan walked back through the palace gates, she stopped being my wife and became something else entirely. She tied up her hair, put on imperial robes, and transformed into Emperor Nangong Jun, a man so beautiful that people called him the most handsome in the entire nation. Nobody suspected the emperor was actually a woman. Not the ministers, not the generals, not even the palace staff. She'd been pulling off this disguise since childhood. My wife is the emperor. I didn't know this yet, obviously. I was still operating under the rich merchant's daughter theory, but the clues were all there. The imperial aura, the 500-tael bounty, the shadow guards, the way trained killers literally trembled in her presence. I'm a chemistry genius, not a detective. Give me a break. Anyway, she sat on the actual dragon throne and held a secret meeting with her 3 most trusted people. A terrifying masked assassin called Blood Plum Blossom, whose voice alone made hardened warriors shake. A massive alcoholic general named Lien Jiuxing with a permanently red nose. And a white-haired scholar named Sima Hui who kept nervously scooting away from Blood Plum Blossom. They discussed the traitor situation. Who was the mysterious master behind Ling Rant's betrayal? 2 main suspects, Prime Minister Yuan Yin, a political snake, and Empress Dowager Lu Jian, backed by the most powerful noble family in the nation. Both had motives. Both had means. Neither could be proven guilty yet. My wife split them into 3 investigation teams and sent them hunting. Then General Red Nose dropped another crisis on her lap. The military budget for the western frontier had vanished. 50,000 troops sitting on the border with an enemy nation, and there was 0 money to pay them. Without salaries, the army would mutiny. If the Western barbarians attacked during a mutiny, the entire empire could collapse. Price tag to fix it, 500,000 taels. Timeline: 5 months before everything exploded. 500,000 taels that didn't exist. A treasury already bled dry by 7 noble families who hoarded all the nation's wealth. A ticking clock that would bring down the dynasty if it hit 0. My wife, the secret empress of a crumbling empire, was sitting alone on her throne, facing enemies she couldn't identify, a poison she couldn't cure, a budget crisis she couldn't solve, and the memory of a village idiot who'd kissed her goodbye that afternoon promising to become a famous poet. Meanwhile, that village idiot, yours truly, was climbing into a sedan chair headed for the pleasure district, planning to revolutionize the ancient cosmetics industry. Different problems, different scales, same determination. Night fell over the capital, and I stepped out into the glittering, noisy, perfume-soaked entertainment quarter, eyes wide open, brain already churning with ideas. 30,000 taels in 5 months? Child's play. I just needed to figure out what product would make every woman in this city throw money at me. And walking through streets packed with painted faces and overpriced powder shops, the answer was already forming in my head. These people had no idea what was about to hit their beauty market. The capital's entertainment district at night was like stepping into a dream. Lanterns everywhere, noise, laughter, music, the whole place glowing like an ancient Las Vegas. And the women. Oh man, the women. This city's dress code was basically, the less fabric, the better. Low-cut dresses everywhere, curves on full display, ladies posing and winking at every man who walked by. It was like someone opened a magazine and all the models climbed out. Tian Tianxi nearly fell out of the sedan chair trying to get a better look. Neo Dali was pressing his giant face against the curtain, drooling and mumbling. Big buns, like a broken record. Me? Totally calm, completely unbothered. Because once you've held Nangong Wan in your arms, every other woman in the world becomes background noise. My standards have been permanently ruined by that woman. Qingwei directed us to a side alley packed with cosmetic shops. I walked into the biggest one and did some market research. 5 minutes later, I walked out grinning like a maniac. These people had nothing. Their entire beauty industry consisted of basic face powder, some rouge, and a few imported spices from the western regions. That's it. No lipstick, no foundation, no skincare products, no perfume beyond raw herbs. The ancient beauty market was a desert, and I was about to make it rain. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out my secret weapon, a tube of handmade lipstick. Yeah, I brought lipstick from Earth. Not on purpose, exactly. Back in my previous life, right before graduation, I'd been trying to impress the class beauty. Being a chemistry student, I figured the romantic play was crafting a perfect all-natural lipstick from scratch. Took me weeks to get the formula right. Was going to surprise her with it, sweep her off her feet, finally get a girlfriend. Then lightning happened. Criminals happened. Transmigration happened. The girl never got her lipstick, and it's been sitting in my pocket across dimensions ever since. I'd originally planned to save it for my wedding day gift to Nangong Wan. But 30,000 taels don't earn themselves. This lipstick was now my market test sample, and more importantly, I knew the formula. Every ingredient could be sourced in this world. Once I proved the concept, I could mass produce. But where to test it? I needed the most influential, best-connected woman money could access. In the modern world, you'd find her at a luxury brand launch. In the ancient world, the answer was obvious. Qingwei, where's the biggest brothel in the capital? Her sword was at my throat before I finished the sentence. Getting real tired of that reflex. I told you, I'm here for business. You can follow me into every room and watch every conversation if you want. I'm not touching anyone. If you so much as look at one of those women wrong. Yeah. Sword, no mercy. I know the script. Can we go now? The Rouge Tower, 5 stories tall, towering over the entire district like a palace of sin. No girls outside hawking for customers either. This wasn't some cheap roadside operation. This was the premium establishment. Doormen in silk, golden lanterns, the works. We were already dressed in fine clothes from Linqing, arriving by sedan chair, looking every bit like young aristocrats. A skinny, slippery-looking attendant named Wang Air slithered over. Welcome, young masters. Wang Air at your service. I want to meet your number 1 girl. The top courtesan. Half an hour of her time. Lead the way. I dropped 10 taels of silver into his palm. Wang Air's eyes popped. And your family name, young master? Qin. His brain immediately went to the Qin family, one of the 7 great noble houses. His bowing got about 3 times deeper. Master Qin. However, our top courtesan, Miss Ningyan, doesn't see guests for money. The only way to meet her is to write a poem that impresses her. If she likes it, you get a meeting. If not, even 1,000 gold pieces won't buy you a glance. Qingyue's eyes flickered with recognition. The Ningyan who's the daughter of Minister Fong. The gentleman knows his stuff? Indeed, she is. A strange sadness crossed Qingyue's face. Some history there, clearly. I filed that away for later investigation. But the important thing? The only requirement to meet the most influential woman in the capital's entertainment industry was writing a good poem. Are you kidding me? I have 300 Tang Dynasty poems memorized. Li Bai alone wrote enough masterpieces to keep me stocked for a decade. This wasn't a challenge. This was a gift-wrapped invitation. I threw my head back and laughed. Tonight, I guarantee I'll be meeting Miss Ningyan. Now tell me, where do I write this poem? Wang Er the attendant thought I was a clueless rich boy playing poet. I could see it in his beady little eyes. Another idiot who thinks money equals talent. He'd watched dozens of young hotshots get rejected tonight. What made me different? Everything, buddy. Everything. He led us inside the Rouge Tower. And holy cow, this place was something else. Ground floor was a full-on party. Live music, dancing girls, men with expensive robes cuddling women with expensive curves. Private rooms upstairs where the soundproofing was. Let's say, aspirational. Every few minutes you'd hear unmistakable noises drifting down. Tian Tianxi and Niu Dali went from drooling wolves to blushing schoolgirls in about 3 seconds flat. These two had never even talked to a woman, and now they were hearing live audio of the real deal. Their faces turned redder than tomatoes. Center of the hall, a raised platform with writing booths. Young scholars lined up like cattle, each one stepping in to write their masterpiece poem, which a servant girl then carried up to the 5th floor. 5 floors up, a row of bells hung in a line. If Miss Ningyan liked your poem, bell rings. If she didn't, silence. And friend, it was very silent up there. Poem after poem went up. Nothing. Not a single ding. Failed poets shuffled away looking like kicked puppies. One guy actually tried to rush the stairs screaming, "Just see me. My love is real," before getting boot-kicked back down by security. Qinghua shook her head. See how hard this is? Give up. You're wasting time. For me? This is dessert before dinner. I asked Wang Er about Ningyan, and the story was actually pretty tragic. She was the daughter of a minister Fong, an honest official who got framed by the powerful Liu family and thrown in prison. His daughter got dragged down with him, forced into the entertainment industry, but she refused to sell her body. Only her art. Only her poetry. She'd set up this whole system where men had to earn an audience through literary talent. Qingyue's eyes went dark with anger when she told me the details. She clearly cared about this girl. Some personal connection there. A woman with talent, beauty, integrity, and a tragic backstory. My interest level went from business opportunity to potential wife candidate at lightning speed. I definitely need to meet her now, I said. Don't even think about it, Qingyue warned. She's a good woman. Keep your dirty thoughts to yourself. Hey, if she falls for my literary genius and throws herself at me, that's hardly my fault, is it? That will never happen. We'll see about that. 20 taels just to submit a poem. 20. And there were over 100 guys lined up tonight. That's 2,000 taels of revenue from desperate poets alone, not counting drinks. This woman, or whoever managed her, was a business genius. She made more money keeping her clothes on than most courtesans made taking them off, which meant she understood commerce, which meant she'd instantly see the value of my lipstick. Perfect target customer. I paid, waited in line for an entire hour, longest hour of my life, and finally stepped into the writing booth. Now what to write? She's a woman of refined taste who's seen every mediocre love poem in the empire. I needed something that would blow the doors off her brain. Li Bai's poem about Yang Guifei. One of the greatest pieces of romantic poetry in Chinese history, comparing a woman's beauty to clouds and flowers, spring winds, and morning dew. Absolute nuclear-grade flattery disguised as high art. Clouds remind me of her clothes. Flowers remind me of her face. Spring wind caresses the railing where rich dewdrops grace. There was just one tiny problem. I cannot write traditional Chinese characters to save my life. My handwriting looked like a drunk spider fell in an ink pot and crawled across the paper. Every stroke was a war. Every character was a battle. By the time I finished just the first half of the poem, I was sweating and panting like I'd run a marathon. Qinghua somehow found a vantage point to spy on me. She saw the chicken scratch handwriting, shook her head, and probably mentally downgraded me from unlikely poet to confirmed illiterate. But here's the genius move. I didn't finish the poem. I wrote only the first half, handed it to the servant girl, and announced loud enough for the entire hall to hear. Tell Miss Ningyan that if she wants to see the second half, she doesn't just ring the bell. She comes down here personally to greet me. Dead silence. Then murmuring. Then gasps. Then outright shock. Nobody had ever made demands of Miss Ningyan. You wrote your poem, you prayed for a bell, and you were grateful if it rang. This lunatic was setting conditions? Before the crowd could fully process my audacity, a voice cut through the noise like a knife. What kind of backwater fool dares act so arrogant? Every head turned. Every face went pale with fear. Even Qing Yue's expression tightened. The whispers started immediately. That's Lu Yunxin, from the Lu family of Qingyang, the same Lu family that destroyed Minister Fong. This arrogant kid just picked a fight with the wrong person. The most powerful noble family in the entire empire. The same family that framed Ningyan's father. And their young master had just walked into the building, aiming his contempt directly at me. Perfect timing, rich boy. Absolutely perfect. So this rich, pretty boy shows up. Lu Yunxin from the almighty Lu family, first noble house in the empire. Fancy robes, paper fan, nose permanently pointed at the ceiling like he's trying to smell heaven. 2 bodyguards flanking him like accessories. In my previous life, a guy like this would have made me sweat through my shirt. But this isn't my previous life. This is MY world now. And I have a gun. Still, I'm not stupid. Fighting the Lu family publicly is suicide. Even with firearms, I can't take on an entire noble clan. The smart play was guerrilla warfare. Smile now, shoot later, from a dark alley, 50 meters away. Nobody suspects a thing. 6 months of daily target practice at 2:30 a.m. had made me a pretty decent shot. I put on my best bootlicker face and bowed. Young Master Lu, what an honor. My humble talent is nothing compared to yours, like a firefly next to the bright moon. He'd been winding up for some big intimidation speech, but my instant surrender completely deflated him. All those prepared insults, nowhere to go. He just sniffed and said, "Humph, at least you know your place." The crowd looked disappointed. They'd wanted drama, blood, public humiliation. Instead, they got a polite handshake. Sorry, folks, the real show comes later. Lu Yunxin strutted into a writing booth, scribbled his poem, and had it sent upstairs. Then he shouted toward the 5th floor with maximum theatrical energy. Miss Ningyan, my masterpiece rivals the 4 great scholars. Please appreciate my sincere feelings for you. Ding, ding, ding. The bells rang. The entire hall went silent. Every head snapped upward. What happened next was the most beautiful display of mass delusion I've ever witnessed. Wang Er, the attendant, sprinted to Lu Yunxin's side. Congratulations, young Master Lu. I always knew your talent was unmatched. Greater than the 4 scholars. Equal to the 5 literary masters. The whole room erupted. Young Master Lu is a genius. The Lu family produces nothing but brilliance. Literary god among men. Lu Yunxin soaked it up like a sponge, fanning himself with practiced elegance. Oh please, too kind. It's all thanks to my family's education. Qinghua tugged my sleeve. Let's go. He won. Who says she picked him? You can't seriously think she chose you. Of course she chose me. I tapped my chest. I wrote Li Bai. Actual Li Bai. Clouds remind me of her clothes. Flowers remind me of her face. That single line turned Bai Ji into a lifelong fanboy. If this Ningyan girl has even a fraction of literary taste, there's no competition. Qinghua decided to stay. Not because she believed me. She wanted to watch my ego get crushed by reality, so I'd finally shut up. Fair motivation. Lu Yunxin tossed Wang Er 50 taels, adjusted his robes, and prepared to ascend the staircase to his glorious meeting with Miss Ningyan. Then the 5th floor door opened. A woman stepped out. White dress, face veiled, body like poetry in motion. She moved with this ethereal, otherworldly grace, like she wasn't walking but floating on mist. The entire hall stopped breathing. It's her, Ningyan herself. Even the 4 great scholars had never made her come out in person. This was unprecedented. Lu Yunxin puffed up like a rooster, already bowing. May I ask which gentleman is Master Qin Chuan? Please come upstairs for a conversation. Her voice was silk and honey and warm rain. Under normal circumstances, every man in the building would have melted. But nobody was melting right now because every single brain in that hall had just crashed. Not Lu Yunxin. Me. The silence was so thick you could have cut it with a sword. 100 faces frozen in identical expressions of, what? Qinghua turned to stare at me, mouth slightly open, eyes wide with genuine shock. I gave her my best smile. Told you, Sister Qinghua. Your brother Chuan doesn't lie. Tian Tianxi couldn't contain himself, That's our boss. He has the blessing of the immort. SHH. Classified information. Zip it. Lu Yunchen was still standing on the stairs, hand frozen mid-bow gesture, face cycling through confusion, denial, and rage at impressive speed. Miss Ningyan, surely you've mixed up the names. Every poem is signed with the author's name. Young Master Lu, she replied calmly. There is no mistake. Then read it. Read the poem you chose. It must be mine. She took a breath and recited. Clouds remind me of her clothes. Flowers remind me of her face. Spring wind caresses the railing where rich dewdrops grace. Her voice added layers of emotion that made the words shine even brighter. Every person in that hall, scholars, merchants, courtesans, servants, felt those 14 characters hit them like a wave. The imagery was so vivid, so perfect, so impossibly beautiful that the room collectively forgot how to exhale. Magnificent, Qingwei whispered, unable to help herself. Absolutely magnificent. Wang Er, operating on pure reflex, immediately pivoted to Lu Yunchen. Young Master Lu, your poem is truly. Lu Yunchen kicked him across the floor. That's not mine, you idiot. The truth sank in. The bells hadn't rung for the noble prince. They'd rung for the nobody. The unknown. The mountain bumpkin who'd been mocked 5 minutes ago. Every eye in the room searched for this mysterious Qin Chuan. I stepped forward, calm as a summer lake, and delivered my line with maximum swagger. Hearing my poem in Miss Ningyan's beautiful voice makes it sound even more divine. Clearly, this poem and Miss Ningyan were made for each other. Every jaw in the building hit the floor when I stepped forward. Wait, that guy? The arrogant nobody from earlier? He wrote it? Qingwei looked like someone had slapped her with a fish. Her entire worldview was recalculating in real time. I could practically hear the gears grinding. Village idiot. Writes poetry. Better than the 4 great scholars. Does not compute. Then something clicked in her brain and her face went pale. If my poetry was this good, I could win the competition next month. Which meant I'd meet the conditions to marry her boss. Which meant her boss's whole, impossible challenge plan was about to blow up spectacularly. My stomach suddenly hurts. Gotta go. Find your own way home. She bolted out the door like her shoes were on fire. Translation: she was sprinting back to the palace to warn my wife that plan, make him give up, had a major flaw. Namely, me being a genius. Bit disappointing she left during my finest hour, but honestly, her absence made the night's other plan much easier. That Lu Yunchen punk still needed a lesson, and I worked better without a bodyguard watching. Miss Ningyan invited me upstairs, and not just for tea. She wanted me to stay the night. Every man in the building looked like they wanted to commit murder-suicide. The jealousy was so thick you could bottle it and sell it as poison. Lu Yunchen's face turned the color of a bruised eggplant. He'd publicly mocked me, publicly claimed the bells were for him, and now publicly watched the woman of his dreams invite me to her private chambers. His entire reputation was being fed through a meat grinder, and everyone was watching. Did I accept the overnight invitation? Nope. I'll stay for 1 hour. Then I'm leaving. The crowd's reaction was genuinely hilarious. You'd think I'd just slapped the emperor. Miss Ningyan, the woman every man in the nation would sell a kidney to spend 5 minutes with, was offering me an entire night, and I said, nah, 60 minutes, tops. My reasoning was simple. She doesn't sleep with clients. Looking but not touching? For an entire night? Next to a woman whose voice alone could make grown men weak. That's not a date. That's torture. Plus, I had business to conduct and a certain nobleman to ambush later. Busy schedule. Ningyan took it like a champ. No anger, no offense. If anything, my rejection made her more interested. When you're worshipped by thousands, the one guy who treats you like an option becomes the most fascinating person in the room. Upstairs, her private quarters were elegant and simple. She sat across from me, still veiled, and started reading the second half of the poem I'd written. And then she read it, and reread it, and reread it again, 20-something times, whispering every line, rocking gently back and forth, completely lost in the words like she was drowning in beautiful music. I sat there watching, genuinely confused. It's a nice poem, sure, but she was acting like I'd handed her the meaning of life. I'm a chemistry student. Poetry appreciation isn't exactly my specialty. I can recite the words perfectly, but the deep literary analysis? That's where I check out. She finally surfaced from her trance and apologized. Your work is beyond anything I've ever encountered. The 4 great scholars, the 5 literary masters, none of them could produce anything close to this. Obviously, I said, because humility is for people with less talent. This is Li Bai's work. The Li Bai, the immortal poet. The man who made emperors wait while he sobered up. Comparing local scholars to Li Bai is like comparing a candle to the sun. Do you have other works? Her voice was trembling with anticipation. I can produce 100 poems just sitting here. She practically vibrated out of her chair. Please, could you share 2 more? I'll do anything. My business brain lit up like fireworks. This was my opening. My poems are priceless, I said, stroking my chin with maximum theatrical gravitas. Each one is a once-in-a-millennium masterpiece. I don't give them away for free. Help me with one thing, and I'll write you 2 more. She went still. Her body shifted backward slightly. Her voice got small and nervous. Does the gentleman want my body? I swallowed hard. Did I want? I mean, objectively speaking, trading a couple of poems for the most sought-after woman in the capital was an incredible deal. Supply and demand had never been more in my favor. But no. Business first. Hormones second. Always. Mostly always. I looked her up and down. Even through the veil, I could tell. The figure was absolutely world-class. Combine that with a voice that could melt steel beams, and, yeah, trading a few poems for that? Best deal in economic history. But I'm a businessman before I'm a pervert. If I said, yes, give me your body, 2 things would happen. 1, she'd refuse because she's literally famous for refusing. 2, she'd lose all respect for me, which would torpedo my product launch before it started. I put on my most dignified expression. Miss Ningyan, if I had those kinds of intentions, why would I have refused your overnight invitation? Behind that veil, I'm pretty sure her face caught fire. She stammered out an apology, clearly embarrassed, and, this was interesting, slightly disappointed, like she was almost offended I wasn't interested in her body. Women, you can't win. So what do you want? She asked. I pulled the lipstick from my sleeve like a magician revealing the final trick. I want you to try this. She stared at it. Never seen anything like it in her life. Nobody in this world had. I explained what it does. Moisturizes lips, adds color, makes women irresistible. My pitch was simple. If the most famous woman in the capital endorses this product, every rich man in the city will bankrupt himself buying it for his wife, girlfriend, or favorite courtesan. She saw through my plan immediately. Smart woman, you want me to be your spokesperson. I want you to try it first. If you love it, we partner up. If you don't, we shake hands and part ways. 3 more poems, she countered. That's my price for trying your little tube. Deal. Fastest negotiation of my career. She picked up a lute and started playing. Beautiful melody, ethereal atmosphere, candlelight flickering. She wanted a performance. Fine, I'll give you a performance. I took 7 dramatic steps across the room, wine cup in hand, and unleashed 3,000 years of Chinese romantic poetry on this unsuspecting woman. Reeds grow tall and green. White dew turns to frost. The one I long for stands across the water. In life or death, we made our vow. Let me hold your hand and grow old together. I searched for her in the crowd 1,000 times. Then turned my head, and there she was. Where the lantern light grew dim, the lute stopped. Complete silence. She sat frozen, staring at me through her veil like I'd just opened a door to another dimension. Then she started crying. Actual tears. Sobbing. Over poetry. These ancient people have 0 entertainment options. No movies, no TV, no social media. So a really good poem hits them like an emotional freight train. To a literary genius like Ningyan, hearing those verses was basically like watching the greatest romance film ever made, live and in person, performed by the author himself. Hold your hand and grow old together, she whispered through tears. Any woman who becomes your companion would be the luckiest person alive. Couldn't agree more, I said, 0 irony. She sighed in a way that sounded suspiciously wistful. Filed that away for later. She took the lipstick, noted my address, and promised to send word after testing it. Business concluded. I chatted with her for another half hour, building the relationship, then headed out. Now, what I did not know was what happened after I left that room. Apparently, the moment the door closed, Ningyan turned to her maid and said, "He's talented, but shows 0 interest in women." Is he? Unable to perform, the maid, a girl named Fong Yu, made it worse. Miss, the address he gave us belongs to a royal property. Only palace women and eunuchs live there. He's clearly male, so he must be a eunuch. A eunuch. They decided I was a castrated palace servant. Miss Ningyan, the woman every man in the empire fantasized about, the woman who moments ago was disappointed I didn't want her body, nodded sadly and said, "What a waste. Well, I suppose we can be like sisters from now on." Sisters. She wanted to be my sister because she thought I had no equipment downstairs. If I'd known, I would have dropped my pants right there and presented comprehensive physical evidence to the contrary. Your Honor, the defense rests. But the silver lining. Since Fang Yu pointed out my address was royal property, they assumed I had connections to the emperor. Ningyan's father was wrongfully imprisoned, and if I could supposedly talk to the emperor, helping me sell lipstick became her top priority. Motivation is motivation. I'll take it. Walked downstairs into the main hall, blissfully unaware that I'd just been classified as a dickless palace servant, and immediately noticed something wrong. Every face in the room was glaring at me with pure hatred. Did they seriously get this jealous over my meeting with Ningyan? Nope. Worse. Lu Yunshin stepped forward, finger jabbing at my chest. The poem thief finally shows his face. While I was upstairs, this conniving little weasel had spent the entire hour telling everyone that my poem was actually stolen from his master, some wandering poet named Zayayozi, who'd supposedly written it years ago after seeing a beautiful woman. Lu Yunshin claimed I'd plagiarized it word for word. He stole my stolen poem. He accused me of stealing what I stole from Li Bai by inventing a fake poet who supposedly wrote it first. The audacity, the layers of intellectual theft. It was almost impressive. The crowd had swallowed every word. They were looking at me like I was the lowest scum on earth. I'd originally planned to just rough Lu Yunshin up a little tonight. Maybe a bullet in the leg from a dark alley, nothing fatal. A lesson. But accusing me of plagiarism? Trying to steal credit for Li Bai's work? In front of the entire capital's literary elite. Tonight's lesson just got upgraded from educational warning to permanent retirement. Lu Yunshin marched up to me with his goons, the whole crowd behind him treating me like a criminal. Poem thief. What do you have to say for yourself? Here's what this little weasel did while I was upstairs. He told everyone that my poem was actually written by his master, some famous guy called Zayayozi, one of the 5 great literary masters. Claimed the old man wrote it years ago after seeing a beautiful woman and was saving it for Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. According to Lu's fairy tale, I'd somehow stolen it and passed it off as my own. He invented an entire backstory for a poem written by Li Bai 1,000 years ago in another dimension. The creativity of liars never ceases to amaze me. The crowd ate it up. Every face was screaming, "How dare you steal from a national treasure?" I was surrounded by an angry mob of literary vigilantes ready to tear me apart over intellectual property rights that didn't exist. I stayed cool. If this is your master's poem, recite the second half. My master is saving the full version for the Empress Dowager's birthday. I only know the first 2 lines. Convenient. Very convenient. Then salvation arrived from the 5th floor. Ningyan's maid Fang Yu leaned over the railing and shouted down. How can you prove it's your master's poem if you can't even finish it? Everything tonight came from your mouth alone. Zayayozi isn't even here. Lu Yunshin tried pulling the noble family card. Are you calling the Lu family liars? You don't represent the entire Lu family, young master. Don't splash dirty water everywhere. This maid had teeth. I liked her already. Ningyan herself stepped in with a compromise. Settle it at next month's poetry competition. The Empress Dowager would set a surprise topic nobody could prepare for. If I could produce poetry of equal quality on a random subject, it'd prove I wasn't a plagiarist. If I couldn't, I'd be exposed as a fraud. Lu Yunshin jumped on it immediately. Of course he did. What I didn't know yet was that the Empress Dowager was going to leak the topic to the Lu family in advance. They planned to have Zayayozi write something incredible beforehand. Then Lu Yunshin would present it as his own, spontaneous, creation and win the whole competition. Cheaters cheating at a cheating contest. Classic. Fang Yu whispered Ningyan's advice in my ear. Even if you write 10 masterpieces right now, Lu will just claim you stole all of them from his master. At the poetry competition with a surprise topic, he can't use that excuse. Fair point. Annoying, but fair. Fine, I agreed. Next month it is, Lu Yunshin smirked. If I didn't need to publicly expose your fraud, you wouldn't even be worth my time. That sentence earned him a second death sentence on top of the first one. Not that he was keeping count. I whispered thanks to Fang Yu for Ningyan, collected my boys, and walked out of the Rouge Tower with my head high, ignoring the mocking laughter behind me. Outside, Tian Tianxi was fuming. Boss, that scumbag slandered you. Niu Dali and I already talked about it. We'll ambush him. No need for fists tonight. I pulled out the gun. Tonight, he meets this. Tian Tianxi recognized it immediately. The divine weapon that had made Fat Kai and his entire crew into charcoal. His eyes went wide. But boss, the Liu family will investigate. They won't suspect us. During our ocean voyage, Qinghua had taught me about this world's martial arts system. Internal energy, kung fu ranks, all that. The key detail, people judge combat power by internal energy levels. Bullet wounds penetrate deep into bone, which in this world's logic means only a grandmaster, the highest tier of martial artist, could inflict that kind of damage. There were maybe a handful in the entire country, all untouchable legends. If I shot Liu Yunshun, investigators would conclude a grandmaster assassin did it. And in our noble family, not even the mighty Liu clan, would pick a fight with a grandmaster over one dead branch family kid. Perfect crime. Zero suspicion. The gun was basically an invisibility cloak for murder. We tailed Liu Yunshun at 100 meters when he stumbled out of the Rouge Tower, drunk, flanked by 2 servants. He turned into a dark alley. Empty streets. No witnesses. 2 in the morning. Christmas came early. I sent Tian Tianxi and Niu Dali to block the far exit, then walked in from the front. Liu Yunshun was drunkenly ordering his servants. Find out where that Qin Chuan lives. I want him beaten daily until he learns what happens when you cross the Liu family. No need to search, I called out, stepping into the lamplight. I'm right here. His servant lifted the lantern. Recognition hit. Liu Yunshun's drunk face split into a grin. Well, what luck? Since you've delivered yourself. Boys, beat him. The servants charged. Bang, bang. 2 shots. 2 hearts. 2 bodies hitting the cobblestones before their brains registered they were dead. Liu Yunshun's grin dissolved into pure terror. The lantern fell, casting wild shadows across the alley walls. In that flickering light, my face probably looked like a demon emerging from hell. He didn't understand what happened. He just knew his men were dead, and the monster responsible was walking toward him. He turned to run. Too slow, rich boy. Way too slow. Niu Dali's massive body plugged the alley exit like a human cork in a bottle. Liu Yunshun spun around, saw his escape route was a 7-foot wall of muscle, and his face went through every shade of white. He tried the intimidation card. I'm from the Liu family. The Empress Dowager is practically my aunt. Kill me and your entire clan gets wiped out. I yawned. Buddy, if I let you go, you'll send an army after me tomorrow. That's called releasing the tiger back to the mountain. And I don't do that. You're not smart either. They'll trace this back to you. Trace what back to me? A guy with 0 martial arts training somehow kills 3 armed men with invisible projectiles? They'll blame a grandmaster. And your precious Liu family won't go to war with a grandmaster over one disposable branch family brat. Something clicked in his brain. The gunshots. The impossible killing power. The seemingly effortless lethality. In this world's logic, only a grandmaster, the absolute peak of human combat, could do what I'd just done. His legs started shaking. His tough guy act crumbled like wet paper. He dropped to his knees in the filthy alley. Gee, Grandmaster. I was blind. Please spare me. Kid, you could call me daddy tonight and I still wouldn't let you walk. Then he played his last card. And it was actually a good one. Grandmaster, you work for the Emperor, right? I have secret information about my family's plans. The Empress Dowager is plotting to assassinate the Emperor during the autumn hunt in 3 months. They're hiring martial arts killers. If you spare me, I'll tell you everything. I couldn't have cared less about palace politics. Emperor, Empress Dowager, whatever. Not my circus, not my monkeys. My finger was already on the trigger. But Tian Tianxi, my surprisingly clever little scholar, scurried over and whispered, Boss, if we save the Emperor's life, he'll reward us. Government positions, power, wealth, light bulb moment. Right. In this world, saving a king gets you titles, land, authority. And what does a man collecting wives need more than anything? Power. Money can buy comfort, But power buys protection. No one steals your women when you're a general. I suddenly became very interested in imperial assassination plots. You're right, I told Lu Yunxin, switching to my best, wise master voice. Ido serve the emperor. Tell me everything, and I'll consider mercy. He spilled everything. The Empress Dowager's reform disputes with the emperor. The autumn hunting trip assassination plan. Hired martial arts killers. The goal: kill the emperor, install a puppet prince named Nangong Zhao on the throne. His own father's role in recruiting the assassins. Even the reason he was at the poetry competition. The family wanted him to win literary fame while daddy handled the killing side. One family, two lanes, culture and murder. Incredible intelligence. This drunk idiot just handed me the biggest state secret in the empire because he thought I was a kung fu grandmaster. Very useful information, I nodded. Now, you mentioned switching sides. Becoming my spy inside the Liu family, his eyes lit up with desperate hope. Yes, I'll be your loyal agent. Whatever you need. Absolutely faithful. That's a lovely offer. Unfortunately, a man who betrays his own family would betray anyone. So, his smile froze. That your sentence is death. Wait, you said you'd spare me. And who's going to know I lied? You? You'll be dead. That's the beautiful thing about breaking promises to corpses, zero complaints. You can't. Grandmasters have honor. Bang. No more Lu Yunxin. No more whining. No more poetry theft accusations from beyond the grave. I confirmed all three were properly dead, strolled out of the alley like I'd just finished an evening walk, and met my boys around the corner right as curious bystanders started investigating the noise behind us. Boss, Tian Tianxi was vibrating with excitement. The assassination intel. Do we try to warn the emperor? We don't know the emperor. And even if we did, why would he believe three random nobodies? Hey, your majesty, some dead guy told us in an alley that your stepmom wants to kill you. Yeah, that'll go over great. Then what's the plan? I grinned. We show up at the autumn hunt and save him ourselves. Live. In person. Dramatically. Nothing impresses a king like a last-second rescue. That's amazing. He might make you a general. Hee general. General. Neo Dali clapped his enormous hands. 3 months to prepare. Plenty of time. I had guns, I had intel, and I had the world's dumbest, most loyal, support team. Went home. Slept like a king. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Qingwei had sprinted straight to my wife to report on tonight's poetry incident. And here's where things got complicated. My wife heard the poem. Clouds remind me of her clothes. Flowers remind me of her face. And was genuinely moved. Apparently, she spent a full minute just savoring those words. All her military budget stress temporarily forgotten. Then her brain caught up to her heart. Wait, that poem describes a beautiful woman. And Qin Chuan wrote it while alone in a room with the most famous courtesan in the capital. He wrote that. About her? What exactly was he doing up there for an hour? He said I was his main wife. Then he writes love poetry about another woman? The empress of a crumbling empire, facing assassination plots and budget crises and political betrayal, suddenly had a new top priority, finding out exactly what happened between her husband and Miss Ningyan in that fifth-floor room. Jealousy. The one enemy even emperors can't defeat. I slept like the dead until mid-afternoon. Killing 3 people and walking home apparently does wonders for sleep quality. No nightmares, no guilt, just 8 solid hours of unconsciousness. Murder really takes it out of you. What I did not know was that my little alley cleanup had set the entire imperial government on fire. See, here's the hilarious chain of events I accidentally triggered. Blood. Plum Blossom, the emperor's scariest assassin, examined Lu Yunxin's body and concluded that only a grand master from the legendary Divine Mechanism sect could have inflicted those wounds. Same mysterious group they blamed for saving my wife back in the village. Now everyone was losing their minds. The emperor thought the Divine Mechanism sect was returning to the world stage and needed to be recruited immediately. The Empress Dowager's people were panicking about the same thing. The prime minister was scrambling. Every noble family in the capital sent their best people out searching for this phantom grandmaster. They were all hunting for me. Except they were looking for a legendary martial arts hermit, not a 20-something chemistry graduate who shoots people with a gun he found on dead criminals. The funniest part? My wife, the actual emperor, though I still didn't know that, was up all night discussing the divine mechanism sect crisis with her advisors. But that wasn't what was really keeping her awake. Qinghua had reported everything. The poem, the private meeting with Ningyan, the hour alone together on the 5th floor. And my wife's reaction was complicated. First, she heard, clouds remind me of her clothes, flowers remind me of her face, and got genuinely swept away by it. All her military budget stress evaporated for a full minute while she savored the beauty of those words. Then her brain kicked in. Wait, he wrote that about another woman? He calls me his main wife, but he's composing once-in-a-millennium love poetry for some courtesan he just met? And they were alone together for an hour? What exactly were they doing up there? Qinghua tried to calm her down. It might not even be his poem. People are saying he plagiarized it from Zayayozi. My wife actually wanted that to be true. If the poem was stolen, it meant I didn't write romantic masterpieces for other women. It meant my heart belonged only to her. But then she thought about it harder. Zayayozi lived 1,000 miles from where I grew up. How would I even access his work? And she remembered the oyster sauce, the compass, the ice, all things I'd invented from scratch. Maybe I really was this talented, which meant the poem was mine, which meant I wrote it for Ningyan, which meant jealousy activated, maximum power. She tried to talk herself down. We can't be together anyway. He's always said he wants multiple wives. This is normal for men. I have no right to be jealous. Didn't work. The jealousy just burned hotter. She announced to Qinghua, tomorrow afternoon, I'm visiting Qin Chuan to discuss what, Your Majesty, to warn him about not provoking the noble families. Very important political advice. Translation, she was going to interrogate me about what happened with Ningyan and whether I'd touched her. The empress of a crumbling empire, facing assassination conspiracies and budget catastrophes, had reprioritized her schedule to conduct a jealousy investigation. Meanwhile, I woke up, brushed my teeth, and was about to eat lunch when a servant announced a visitor. Who is it? She says she's the person you spoke with last night, Ningyan. Here, at my house. Already. The lipstick must have worked. Send her in. She glided into my courtyard like a fairy descending from heaven, still veiled, still ethereal, still carrying that voice that could melt glaciers. She'd barely slept either, apparently, but for completely different reasons than my wife. She'd spent the whole night replaying my poems in her head, drowning in the beauty of words that weren't even mine. She was here about business, about the lipstick, about potential partnership, and maybe, just maybe, about the poems. I welcomed her with maximum warmth and enthusiasm. She sat down, smiling behind her veil. The chemistry, no pun intended, was flowing perfectly. Neither of us had any idea that at that exact moment, a very jealous empress had changed into civilian clothes and was marching toward my front gate with murder in her eyes. The most powerful woman in the empire was about to walk in on me having tea with the most beautiful courtesan in the capital. I didn't know I was married to the emperor. I didn't know she was coming. And I definitely didn't know that a jealous empress is approximately 10,000 times more dangerous than any assassin, grandmaster, or noble family conspiracy. Some battles, even a gun can't win. Ningyan showed up at my door the very next day. The lipstick worked. Of course the lipstick worked. It's lipstick. No woman in history has ever been able to resist lipstick. She was practically glowing behind that veil. Master Qin, the product is extraordinary. Smooth, fragrant, long-lasting. Every girl in the Rouge Tower tried it, and their allure increased dramatically. Music to my entrepreneurial ears. We hammered out a deal fast. She'd go back to the Rouge Tower and, accidentally, let slip that she desired this mysterious new beauty product called lipstick. Every rich man in the capital would then scramble to buy it for her, hoping an expensive gift would earn them a meeting. Supply and demand at its finest. I offered 50-50 profit split. She refused, said she was doing it purely out of respect for my literary talent, no payment needed. Which was suspicious, honestly. Nobody turns down free money unless they want something bigger. But I insisted because one-sided deals collapse eventually. We settled on 80-20, my favor. What I didn't know, she thought I was a eunuch, a castrated palace servant. She was being generous because she wanted me to use my imperial connections to help free her imprisoned father. She was investing in a eunuch's political influence, not a business partnership. If I'd known she thought my equipment was missing, I would have. Well, I would have handled it very differently. As evening approached, I invited her to stay for dinner. She couldn't eat with me. Some contract with the Rouge Tower owner meant she could never show her face in public. Instead, she offered to dance while I ate. Yes, a private dance. From the most desired woman in the capital. While I ate dinner and drank wine. Being alive is wonderful. She started moving, and sweet mercy. That body was built for dancing. Every spin, every gesture, every flowing movement was pure magic. Ethereal, hypnotic, like watching a celestial being perform just for me. My mouth went dry. My chopsticks froze midair. My wine sat untouched because my hand forgot how cups work. I was mid-swallow of my own saliva when Qin Chuan, a voice sharp enough to cut diamonds, ripped through the courtyard. I nearly choked to death. My wife, standing in the doorway, face like a thunderstorm, eyes like laser beams of pure feminine fury. She'd seen everything. Me drooling, the beautiful woman dancing, the romantic dinner setup, the wine, the candlelight. The whole picture screamed, "Your husband is having the time of his life without you." Ningyan stopped dancing immediately and stared at my wife with genuine surprise. Even through a veil, you could tell she was thinking, "This woman is as beautiful as me. How have I never seen her before?" Meanwhile, my smooth brain operated on pure reflex. "Wifey, you're here. I missed you so much." I opened my arms for a hug. She shoved me away like I was radioactive. That's when I noticed the signs. The pouting lips, the narrowed eyes, the nostrils flaring, the way her jaw clenched tight enough to crack walnuts. Oh, she's jealous. My heart did a backflip. Jealousy means she cares. Jealousy means she's emotionally invested. My charm offensive was working. Is my little wifey jealous? I leaned in with my biggest grin. I am not jealous. Don't be ridiculous. Her voice could have frozen the ocean. Then why are you angry? She scrambled for an excuse. Because you're supposed to be preparing for the poetry competition, not entertaining. Dancing girls, So you do want me to win the competition, which means you want to marry me, which means you have feelings for. Think whatever you want. She turned to Ningyan with the warmest smile a woman has ever used while mentally committing murder. It's getting late. I'm sure this young lady needs to be going now. Ningyan could read the room. She bowed politely and vanished faster than a rabbit in a dog park. My wife glared at me one final time, huffed magnificently, and stormed out with her guards blocking me from following. I stood in my courtyard, grinning like an idiot, surrounded by cold food and an empty dance floor. She's jealous. The Ice Queen is jealous. Over me. This is the greatest day of my life. What I didn't see was the carriage ride home, where my wife, the secret emperor of this entire nation, was having a full emotional meltdown. Is Ningyan prettier than me? She demanded from Qinghua. Your Majesty, in pure beauty you're equals. But you have imperial authority that he doesn't know I'm the emperor. Imperial authority is useless. He probably likes her more. Then came the question that reportedly made Qinghua want to jump out of the moving carriage. Tell me, how does a woman capture a man's heart and keep it? Qinghua, bless her traumatized soul, took a deep breath and delivered the most awkward advice in imperial history. Your Majesty, according to palace eunuchs who served your father, whichever consort pleased the late emperor most in bedroom matters, receive the most favor. If you want to secure Qin Chuan's heart, you should consummate the relationship soon. Before Ningyan does it first, dead silence in the carriage. My wife, the virgin empress who'd been raised to hate men, who disguised herself as male her entire life, who'd never so much as held hands with a boy before meeting me, was being told that the solution to her jealousy problem was sleeping with me as fast as possible. And somewhere across the city, completely unaware of any of this, I was finishing my cold dinner alone, daydreaming about lipstick profits. The universe works in mysterious ways. After my wife stormed off in a jealous hurricane, I figured that was the end of the drama for today. Went back to my cold dinner, replayed the evening's highlights. Successful business deal, beautiful woman dancing for me, wife confirming she has feelings through the universal language of jealousy. Solid Tuesday. Then I started sneezing. Like, repeatedly. In this world, that supposedly means people are thinking about you. Must be all those ladies at the Rouge Tower who heard my poem last night, falling in love from a distance. Obviously, what I did not know was that my little alley adventure had escalated into a full-blown national security crisis. Blood plum blossom. The emperor's top killer, an actual Grand Master herself, spent the entire night searching the capital for the mysterious super warrior who killed Lu Yunxin. Found absolutely nothing. No energy signature. No trail. No trace. Complete ghost. Her conclusion? This person's power was so far beyond regular grandmasters that they might be approaching heavenly realm, a theoretical level of martial arts that nobody in recorded history had ever achieved. Basically, I'd accidentally convinced the entire intelligence community that a mythical demigod was wandering around the capital shooting people. Every faction mobilized simultaneously. The emperor wanted to recruit this phantom warrior. The empress dowager wanted the same. The prime minister, the noble families. Everyone sent their best people on a citywide manhunt for the most powerful fighter alive. They were hunting for a transcendent martial arts immortal. They were actually looking for a guy who pulls a trigger and lets physics do the work. The empress dowager, a woman so beautiful that even her bath servants were gorgeous, consulted her personal grand master, a fat murderous monk named Kuhai. His analysis was terrifyingly logical. The mystery killer eliminated Lu Yunxin to clear competition for the poetry contest, meaning this super warrior was also a literary genius who planned to dominate next month's competition. His recommendation? The Empress Dowager should personally attend the poetry contest and recruit whoever performs brilliantly. So now the most powerful woman in the empire was planning to show up at MY poetry competition to find and recruit me, thinking I was an immortal-level martial artist moonlighting as a poet. I was going to walk into that contest as a broke chemistry student with a gun and walk out with every major political faction in the country fighting over me. But that was next month's problem. Today's problem arrived at my front door in a much more interesting package. Qingyue marched into my courtyard leading 6 servant girls. 6 servant girls, all wearing nothing but thin silk undergarments. Smooth pale skin everywhere. Curves on full display. Walking toward me in a line like the world's most aggressive welcome committee. My brain shut down. Rebooted. Shut down again. Turns out my wife's jealousy-fueled strategic thinking worked like this. She couldn't sleep with me herself yet, wasn't emotionally ready, still had the whole secret emperor problem, but she also couldn't stand the idea of Ningyan getting to me first. Her solution? Send attractive but not too attractive servants to keep me occupied, satisfy the appetite without losing the customer to a competitor. She knew my standards were impossibly high. She was betting I wouldn't actually fall for any of these girls. I'd use them for entertainment, but my heart would stay with her. It was simultaneously the most insane, most possessive, and most weirdly flattering thing anyone had ever done for me. 6 barely dressed women standing in my courtyard, sent by my jealous secret empress wife, while the entire government hunted for me thinking I was a mythical kung fu god. This is my life now, and honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Qingyue marched 6 girls into my courtyard wearing nothing but silk undergarments. 6. All gorgeous, all trembling, all sent by my wife with explicit instructions to keep me company in every sense of the word. My wife, who wouldn't sleep with me herself, sent me a harem as a consolation prize. The logic was so insane it was almost genius. She couldn't stand the thought of Ningyan getting to me first, but she also wasn't ready to do the job herself, so she outsourced the task to expendable staff members. I stared at 6 barely dressed women. They stared back at me with pure terror in their eyes. And you know what? I sent them away. Yeah, I know. Me. The guy who spent 20 chapters talking about collecting wives. The self-proclaimed pervert. The man whose life goal is maximum women, minimum clothing. I looked at 6 free, attractive, willing by order women and said, nah, because they were scared. These weren't noble ladies or confident courtesans. They were servants. Bought and sold. Given no choice. Forced into silk underwear and marched to a stranger's bedroom against their will. I grew up poor on earth. I know what it's like to be powerless. Taking advantage of people with no options? That's a line even I won't cross. Now, would I have said no if they were stuck-up noble princesses? Absolutely not. I'd have taught those entitled ladies a thorough lesson about humility. But scared servant girls? Not my style. Let them go, I told Qingyue. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You're sure, I'm a gentleman. I don't force people. The girls practically flew out of the room, bowing and thanking me with tears of relief. and I watched all that smooth, pale skin disappear through the doorway while my teeth ground together so hard I nearly cracked a molar. Did I regret it? Oh, massively. Immediately. Catastrophically. But the words were already out, and I couldn't take them back without looking like the world's most pathetic flip-flopper. Qinghua left to report back to my wife. 1 hour later, I can only imagine the scene at the Nangong estate. He refused them? All of them. Every single one, Your Majesty. That means he's obsessed with Ningyan. She's stolen his soul. This is worse than I thought. My wife interpreted my act of basic human decency as proof that Ningyan had bewitched me. In her mind, the only explanation for rejecting 6 pretty girls was that another woman had already claimed my heart. The jealousy intensified to levels that probably violated physics. Meanwhile, Ningyan's plan was already in motion. Her maid Fong Yu spread the word that morning. Miss Ningyan desperately wants a mysterious beauty product called lipstick. Anyone who provides it might earn a private meeting. Every rich man in the capital lost his mind simultaneously. Lipstick? What is lipstick? I don't know what it is, but I need it immediately. Servants were dispatched. Merchants were interrogated. The entire city's upper class began frantically searching for a product that only one person in this dimension could make. Me. Supply. One guy with a chemistry degree. Demand. Every wealthy man in the empire. This was going to be beautiful. Only one problem. I'd given my only lipstick sample to Ningyan. I needed raw materials to make more. The key ingredient? Cochineal insects. Tiny bugs that live on cactus plants and produce the perfect natural red pigment. I found Qinghua meditating on my rooftop like some martial arts movie character and asked, "Hey, know where I can find cactus plants and cochineal insects?" She floated down like gravity was optional. What are those? The things that'll make me 30,000 taels. She had no idea what I was talking about. When I drew a picture of a cactus, admittedly, my art skills make my handwriting look like calligraphy by comparison, she squinted at it for a long time. Oh, 5 years ago, Southern Kingdoms gifted these spiky plants to the Empress Dowager. She thought they were ugly and useless, so she had them thrown outside the city walls, thrown away. The Liu family threw away a gold mine because it had spines. These people wouldn't recognize a business opportunity if it bit them on their noble behinds. If they took root, they might still be alive out there, Qinghua added. Might. The entire future of my cosmetics empire rested on whether some discarded cacti had survived 5 years of neglect in a ditch outside the capital. Take me there. Right now, we found them. We actually found them. 2 hours of riding around outside the city walls, and there they were. Acres of cactus plants, spread across 500 meters of wasteland, growing wild and thick and absolutely loaded with cochineal insects. 5 years ago, the Empress Dowager received these as a gift from Southern Kingdoms. She took one look at the spiny plants and went, "Ew, gross, throw them away." Her servants dumped them outside the city like trash. That woman, the same woman who's apparently plotting to assassinate the emperor, just accidentally became the greatest benefactor of my career. She threw away a gold mine because it was prickly. If she'd kept them in the palace garden like a normal person, I'd have zero access to the raw materials for my cosmetics empire. Thank you, your imperial stupidness. I owe you everything. Everyone. If we get all these cacti back to the mansion before the city gates close tonight, 100 taels bonus. Split between all of you. Qinghua nearly had an aneurysm. You're spending 100 taels on ugly plants. The servants didn't share her skepticism. Their eyes lit up like slot machines hitting jackpot. 100 taels split 20 ways was still more money than any of them had seen in their lives. They rode back to the city, rented 5 massive carts, grabbed shovels, and descended on that cactus field like a swarm of extremely motivated locusts. By sunset, every single cactus was potted and sitting in my back courtyard. Nyodali got an extra 100 taels for finding them first. Total expenditure on Operation Cactus, 200 taels. Qinghua thought I'd lost my mind. 200 taels on plants that the Empress Dowager considered worthless garbage. At this rate, she calculated, I'd be bankrupt within weeks. But here's what she didn't understand: monopoly pricing. Every one of these cacti was now mine. Every cochineal insect living on them was mine. Nobody else in the entire country had access to this raw material. When you're the only supplier of something every rich person desperately wants, you set the price. Any price. Your price. I spent the next 3 days doing nothing but agricultural work. Carefully transferred insect eggs onto 2/3 of the cactus leaves. These little bugs hatch in 30 minutes, but take 6 weeks to grow big enough for harvesting. That meant my large-scale production line wouldn't be ready for a month and a half. But I'd saved enough adult insects for an initial batch. 10 lipsticks. That's all I needed for phase 1. Bought beeswax from the market. Used pig fat instead of olive oil. Not ideal, but functional. Built a filtration system from scratch because I'm a chemistry graduate, and this is literally what I went to school for. 5 days of careful work, and voila, 11 perfect lipsticks. 10 for sale, 1 gift for my wife. Meanwhile, Fong Yu sent me daily market reports. The frenzy was escalating. Day 1. People offered 100 taels per lipstick. Day 3, 300. Day 5, 500. By the time I finished production, someone had publicly offered 1,000 taels for a single tube. 1,000 taels for 1 lipstick that I made from bug juice and pig fat. 10 lipsticks times 1,000 taels each equals. I had to sit down. My hands were shaking. 10,000 taels from 1 batch. But I didn't sell. Not yet. The price was still climbing. Every day, without supply on the market, pushed the desperation higher. These lovesick rich idiots were bidding against each other for a product that didn't exist yet. The longer I waited, the higher the ceiling. Patience. Patience. Let the fever build. I spent the next week and a half doing absolutely nothing productive. Ate. Drank. Had the servant girls dance for entertainment. Purely artistic appreciation, nothing inappropriate. Slept until noon every day. Didn't write a single poem. Didn't prepare for the competition at all. Qingwei watched all this from her rooftop perch with mounting horror. In her mind, I was a lazy, lovesick fool who'd been enchanted by Ningyan and completely forgotten about the poetry contest 3 days away. She wanted to beat some sense into me. Then Fong Yu's messenger arrived with the latest update. I read it, and my face split into the biggest grin of my entire transmigrated life. Qingwei dropped from the roof ready to lecture me, but I cut her off. Sister Qingwei, tonight your brother Chuan is making the deal of the century. I need you watching my back. If this works, the wedding fund is basically done. Qingwei thought I was going to the Rouge Tower for another date with Ningyan. She literally couldn't look at me without wanting to punch something. So she stayed home, feeling sick. Translation: if I watch you flirt with one more woman, I will commit violence. Fine by me. Tonight's business required less supervision, not more. What Qingwei didn't know, what nobody knew except me, Tian Tianxi, and Ningyan's team, was that I'd spent the last 2 weeks orchestrating the most elaborate sales operation this world had ever seen. Every day, Fong Yu sent me intelligence reports. Who wanted lipstick, how much they'd pay, which noble families were desperate enough to bid stupid money. Meanwhile, Tian Tianxi, wearing a mask and calling himself Master Crouching Dragon, because apparently my joke nickname went to his head, made contact with each buyer, building anticipation, stoking the frenzy. Tonight was harvest night. I'd invited every serious buyer to a private room at the Rouge Tower. The legendary Sky Suite, normally 100 taels per night, but Ningyan waived the fee. 20-something men crammed inside, every single one a rich heir or noble family representative, all vibrating with desperation to get their hands on this mysterious lipstick that would earn them Ningyan's favor. Tian Tianxi and I walked in wearing masks. The room went dead quiet. 20 pairs of hungry eyes locked onto us. Master Crouching Dragon, did you bring the goods? The loudest voice belonged to Cui Shujian, heir to the Cui family, second most powerful clan in the empire. Built like a well-fed hippo, twice as aggressive. Tian Tianxi unwrapped 1 lipstick tube. The room collectively held its breath like we'd unveiled the Holy Grail. I want them all, Cui Shujian bellowed. Name your price. Not so fast, Tubby. Lu Yinhang from the Lu family, salt monopoly heirs, absolutely loaded, stood up. The rules say highest bidder wins. I'm playing by the rules, and I'm playing to win. Then Su Weiyue from the Su family, literally the richest clan in the country, leaned back and smirked. The Lius control salt. We control everything else. Sit down. Your money doesn't scare me, Su. Our salt revenue alone could. Beautiful. They were already fighting and the auction hadn't even started. Here's the genius of my setup. Instead of selling all 10 lipsticks as a bundle, which would mean only one buyer and one payment. I sold them individually, one at a time, 10 separate auctions. Why? Psychology. If Chui wins the first lipstick, Lu thinks, I can't let him be the only one with Ningyan's favor, and bids insane money on the second. Then Su thinks, two of my rivals have lipstick and I don't, and goes nuclear on the third. Each sale raises the stakes for the next one. Competition breeds stupidity, and stupidity breeds profit. 10 lipsticks. Sold one at a time. Starting bid, 500 taels. Minimum increment, 10 taels. Begin, 600. Chui slammed the table. 800. Lu shot back. 1,000. Su didn't even raise his voice. Just dropped a number like it was pocket change. And they were off. Screaming numbers at each other, faces red, veins bulging, each one terrified of being the loser who couldn't impress a woman he'd never even touched. I sat behind my mask watching the carnage unfold, feeling like a puppet master pulling strings made of solid gold. These idiots were bankrupting their family allowances over tubes of bug juice and pig fat. 10 rounds of auction, each one more vicious than the last. By round 5, the opening bids were higher than the final prices from round 1. By round 8, grown men were shouting threats at each other. By round 10, I'm pretty sure someone was crying. When it was all over, Feng Yu, who'd been spying through the door crack the entire time, sprinted upstairs to Ningyan looking like she'd seen a ghost. Miss, you won't believe the total. Ningyan set down her lute calmly. Let me guess, more than you expected? You need to guess. The number was so large that a girl who worked in the most expensive entertainment venue in the capital, a place where men routinely spent hundreds of taels on a single evening, couldn't bring herself to say it out loud. 10 lipsticks, 20 buyers fighting over them. One very satisfied chemistry graduate hiding behind a mask, mentally calculating how many more wives he could now afford. Ningyan guessed the auction would bring 10,000 taels. Her maid Feng Yu shook her head. Higher, miss. How much? 38,000 taels. Yeah, 38,000. 410 tubes of bug juice lipstick. Even I had trouble processing that number, and I'm the one who made them. The auction itself was a bloodbath of egos and wallets. 20-something noble heirs screaming numbers at each other, each one terrified that his rival would be the one to win Ningyan's heart with a gift she'd mentioned wanting. Chui from the Chui family opened aggressive. Lu from the Salt Monopoly clan fired back harder. Su from the richest house in the empire dropped numbers like they were pocket change. Round after round, the prices climbed higher than I'd dared to dream. But then, and this still burns me up, that slippery fox Su Wuyua pulled a move so brilliant I wanted to simultaneously murder him and hire him. He bought all 10 lipsticks. Every single one. I was thrilled for about 30 seconds. Then he turned around and resold them to the other buyers right there in the room. His pitch was genius. I have connections with the Rouge Tower's owner. Buy from me, and I'll guarantee Ningyan agrees to a private meeting. If she doesn't, full refund. Nobody else could offer that guarantee. He'd turn my exclusive product into his own retail operation. The lipsticks I'd sold him for 38,000, he flipped them for 60,000. This con artist made 22,000 taels of pure profit in about 15 minutes, using MY product, in MY venue. While I watched, I wasn't even mad. Okay, I was furious, but also impressed. The Su family didn't become the richest clan in the country by accident. This kid had commercial instincts that rivaled mine. The fury lasted about 90 seconds before the math kicked in. 38,000 taels. Minus Ningyan's 20%, 7,600, left me with just over 30,000 taels. 30,000 taels. The wedding fund target was 30,000. I'd hit it. In one night. One auction. 10 lipsticks. All I needed now was to win the poetry competition in 3 days, and I could formally marry my wife. With money to spare for the dowry, I stayed at the Rouge Tower until nightfall. Carrying that much silver made me a walking target, and dark streets were safer for a man with a gun. Went upstairs to Ningyan's quarters to drop off her share and kill time. She poured me fancy tea. I pretended to appreciate it like a connoisseur when honestly it tasted like hot leaf water. Give me a Coke any day. She asked about the poetry competition. I told her I hadn't prepared at all. Aren't you worried? Why would I be? Whoever shows up, they lose. That's just how it works. Any normal person would call that delusional arrogance. But Ningyan had heard my poetry. She'd experienced the real thing. When I said it, she didn't doubt me. She found it attractive. Her eyes practically sparkled behind that veil. She danced for me again while I waited for darkness. Absolute perfection in motion. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Qingyue had reported everything to my wife. Every lazy day, every Ningyan messenger, every trip to the Rouge Tower, every dance, every tea session. And my wife? She wasn't jealous anymore. She was done. He doesn't care about the poetry competition. He doesn't care about our agreement. He doesn't care about me. He spends all his time with that woman. The heartbreak had transformed into cold imperial fury. She told Qingyue that if her doctors could find a cure for the harmony powder, she'd pay me off with a pile of silver and banish me from the capital forever. She almost ordered my execution. Almost. But she couldn't do it. Somewhere deep under all that imperial armor, the girl who'd slept in my arms at the inn, who'd laughed on the beach, who'd kissed me while I was unconscious, that girl couldn't bring herself to sign the order. Give him money. Send him away. I never want to see his face again. Then, switching back to Empress mode with terrifying speed, she started planning for the poetry competition, not for MY's sake, but because the mysterious, divine mechanism sect grandmaster was expected to appear there. She needed to recruit this phantom warrior before the Empress Dowager did. She booked a private room near the competition stage. The Empress Dowager booked one too. Both sides preparing to recruit the same legendary fighter. Both sides hunting for me. And I was sitting in a brothel drinking tea I didn't like, watching a woman dance, carrying 30,000 taels in my pocket, completely oblivious to the fact that in 3 days I was going to walk onto a poetry stage with the two most powerful women in the empire watching from opposite sides of the room, both wanting me for completely different reasons, neither knowing I was the same person. 3 days. 1 competition. 2 empresses. 0 preparation. This was going to be fun. My wife told Qingyue to keep protecting me no matter what. Even while furious. Even while heartbroken. Even while convinced I was a worthless playboy who'd forgotten her entirely. She couldn't kill me. Couldn't abandon me. Couldn't stop caring. And I had absolutely no idea any of this was happening. I was too busy trying not to get robbed. See, after the auction, over 100 goons from various noble families camped outside the Rouge Tower, waiting to ambush anyone carrying lipstick money. Leaving at night with 38,000 taels strapped to my body would have been like wearing a sign saying, "Please ROB and murder me." So we stayed. All night. All next day. Didn't leave until the goons finally got bored and dispersed the following afternoon. Walked through my gate looking like absolute death. Me, Tian Tianci, and Niu Dali, exhausted, yawning, barely standing. Tian Tianci's legs were wobbling because, well, the man has always been physically weak. That's just how he walks when he's tired. Qingyue was waiting for us. Arms crossed. Eyes blazing. Ready to prosecute. You spent the night at the brothel. All 3 of you. You're disgusting. We were conducting business. Business? Tian Tianci can barely walk. What kind of business makes a man's legs give out? He's always been like that. The man has the constitution of a wet napkin. She didn't believe a single word. In her mind, we'd spent 24 hours in a pleasure house doing exactly what men do in pleasure houses. She wanted to strangle me, but my wife had explicitly ordered her not to hurt me. So she switched tactics. Instead of attacking me, she went full encouragement mode, which was way scarier. Oh, you already earned the wedding money? Wonderful. Then you just need to win the poetry competition tonight. And you know what? You should be as arrogant as possible. The more arrogant, the more famous you'll become. She was setting me up. She was hoping I'd act like an obnoxious clown at the competition, embarrass myself publicly, get demolished by real scholars, and finally give my wife a legitimate reason to cut me loose forever. What she didn't realize, encouraging me to be arrogant is like encouraging a fish to swim. That's my default setting. You read my mind, Sister Qingyue. Tonight I'm going full maximum arrogance. She barely suppressed a grin. In her head, she was already writing my obituary. I asked if my wife would come watch. Qingyue said no, her father is too strict. Actually, my wife would absolutely be there, hiding in a private booth, hunting for the mysterious grandmaster. But Qingyue wanted me to be as unguarded and obnoxious as possible, so she kept that little detail to herself. Then a horse-drawn carriage pulled up outside my gate, and things got interesting. Out stepped a young woman in green. sharp eyebrows, slim figure, haughty expression, and a chest so flat it was practically concave. She scanned the courtyard like she owned the place and demanded, "Where is Qin Chuan?" Qinghua elbowed me. "Brother Chuan, you really do leave romantic debts everywhere. Qinghua, please. This woman's chest is flatter than my kitchen table. You know I only like them built like my wife. Generous proportions, if you catch my drift." I made a grabbing motion with both hands for emphasis. Qingyue's face said, "You are the worst human being alive." The green woman's face said, "You will die screaming." "You must be Qin Chuan," she hissed. "Truly as vulgar as reported. And you are?" "I'm Ouyang Ronger, one of the 3 great poetesses of the Qian Empire, disciple of Master Zaiyaozi, and senior sister to Lu Yunxin." Qinghua and Tian Tianzi went stiff. This was serious. One of the 3 most talented women in the country, student of the very man whose work I'd supposedly plagiarized, and sister disciple to the guy I'd secretly murdered in an alley. She'd come to avenge her dead junior brother and publicly destroy me at the poetry competition. "You stole my master's poem. You were supposed to face my junior brother at the contest, but fate took him before justice could be served. So I'm taking his place. Tonight I will prove to the world that you are a fraud." Every word dripped with righteous fury. She genuinely believed I was a thief who'd stolen from her beloved teacher. She genuinely mourned her dead junior brother. She had absolutely no idea I was the one who'd put him in the ground. Qinghua shot me a look that said, "You're so dead tonight." But me? I was grinning ear to ear. I'd been worried the competition might be boring without Lu Yunxin to humiliate. But the universe had delivered a replacement challenger, gift-wrapped, self-motivated, and absolutely convinced of her own superiority. When life sends enemies to your doorstep, you don't complain. You say thank you and sharpen your sword. Tonight was going to be spectacular.